One day a girl named Daryl, who is a black magician, decides that she needs to hire an employee. She was leafing through a book with different options and thought about how she would like something for a real mage. A golem or gargoyle or something like that. Looking at the high price of a golem, Daryl was surprised. She realized that if her assistant was too weak, it wouldn't be good. After all, in that case, the other mages would look down on her. Daryl felt that her workers should be act proud as a black mage. Closing the book, Daryl decided to start hiring a goblin or devil mage and then just change it. Without thinking long, the girl called the monster delivery company. It was worth saying that Daryl had her own magic shop, which was where she was currently located. The girl was outraged when she heard that they wanted to send her a slime. After all, she is a black mage. The girl thought that her assistant should at least be a kobold or a fairy. So Daryl decided to send the slime back immediately without any payment. At that moment, the slime entered the shop and stated that it came from the monster delivery shop. Daryl apologized to the slime and explained that it was just a mistake. The slime, on the other hand, introduced himself and boldly stated that he would do his best. Slime seemed nice to Daryl. She even forgot for a second that she wanted to give up on him. Then she approached the slime and asked if he would be a smarty. The girl poked the monster with her finger, and then she punched it with her fist. Suddenly, Daryl felt a TL. This feeling seemed dangerous to her. And while the slime was recovering from such a sudden blow, Daryl was hovering in her thoughts. The girl then asked the slime what level it was, to which the slime proudly replied that he had level 2. Then Daryl asked him what special skills he had, to which the slime replied that he had no special skills. The monster claimed that everything would be great if you are motivated. In that case, Daryl decided to conduct an interview. So, the slime sat down on a chair and was determined to answer all of Daryl's questions and pass the interview. The girl, on the other hand, looked first at the characteristics of the slime. So, slime race, level 2, no skills. Magic power unknown. Covering her face with the tablet, Daryl realized that she simply couldn't use this slime. Slime, meanwhile, decided to show off his muscles and tensed his biceps, claiming that he could carry things. In that case, Daryl decided to test something. She took Slime's cheeks and began to stretch them. The girl realized that she just couldn't stop. But she also asked herself to calm down and not let the slime blind herself with momentary emotions. Daryl realized that if she chose someone like that, she would not be recognized by the other mages. But still, how much this slime stretched was shocking to Daryl. Eventually, the girl flattened the monster. The slime, on the other hand, stayed in that state for a couple more moments, and then returned to its original state. Daryl was stunned. She realized that she simply couldn't refuse the slime, so she took him on. A short time later, Daryl was already sitting at her desk, holding her hands to her head and thinking about the fact that she had hired this slime after all. She, being a black mage, had hired the slime. Therefore, Daryl felt that there must be some justification for it. It should be said that Daryl just liked cute things even though she was a black mage. All the girl could think about now was that she just couldn't stand it all. At that time, Daryl declared that she was going to have a medical examination. The girl approached the slime and asked it to put its hands up. Slime only obeyed the girl and raised his hands. The girl was doing this examination hoping to find the reason why she chose this guy. Besides the fact that he is cute and also very soft. Then the girl again asked herself to calm down, claiming that it was just a medical examination. She squeezed the slime again, which the slime again did not expect. Daryl touched the slime to find any reason to hire this guy. Suddenly, the girl realized that the slime was a little cold. In that case, she reckoned that she would just chill out then when the slime was around. In that case, Daryl made up her mind. She reckoned that there was nothing wrong with hiring a cooling device while being a black mage. In that case, the girl would just say that she hired an air conditioner. After a while, when the so-called medical examination was over, the girl started looking for a reason to touch the slime. And while the slime was just doing the dirty work in Daryl's shop, the girl agonized and tried to think of anything. Daryl realized that the slime was too cute, and she would just die if she couldn't touch it. But what to do if she had already done a medical examination? Suddenly, a brilliant idea came to her mind. She realized that she could just give the slime a difficult job. In that case, the girl would watch the super cute helper while he labored. Without thinking long, Daryl proceeded to execute her plan. She approached the office and asked the slime if he was in this office, to which the slime replied firmly that he was indeed there. Then Daryl ran her finger across the surface hoping to see a speck of snot and reprimand the slime for it. But the girl's finger only glistened. There wasn't even a speck of dust on it. Daryl was shocked and didn't understand how this kid could do such a cleanup without a single speck. In that case, the girl decided to go to extreme measures and show the slime a baptism of black magic. At the snap of her fingers, the girl made a barrier in the slime's legs. Slime tripped over this obstacle and dropped the flower box from her hands. Plummeting to the ground, the slime looked menacingly at the box and then looked pitifully at Daryl. Daryl, on the other hand, was only pleased that she had succeeded. She cheerfully called the slime a fool, and then began to squeeze it again. Then after all the affection, the girl wondered why the slime had decided to join this shop. Then the slime pulled a certain roll out of his pocket and began to read it out. He claimed to admire Daryl's corporate culture and empathy. Daryl, on the other hand, did not understand at all what Slime was telling her. Slime, on the other hand, claimed that he wanted to grow with this company. These are his thoughts. In that case, Daryl decided to ask another question. She asked Slime what is its corporate culture. These words took the slime by surprise. He only remained silent and did not know what to answer. Then the girl said that something interesting would happen if the slime didn't answer this question in 3 seconds. In the meantime, Slime began desperately trying to find some information on his piece of paper. By the time Daryl finished counting down, Slime was already pouring sweat. He still hadn't given an answer to the question. Then Daryl said that this shop had no corporate culture and began to squeeze the slime again. Slime, on the other hand, only called Daryl a fox for doing so. After a while, the shop started cleaning the crevices. Slime at this time flattened himself and reached into the crevices to clean them. When he returned, he exhaled heavily from the tedious work and then returned himself to his former state. Daryl looked at this with broad shock. The girl of course knew that a slime could deform, but she thought it was a useless talent. Only now did Daryl realize how elastic the slime was and how much it could stretch. Then Daryl asked her partner if he was okay, to which the latter replied only yes. In that case, the girl asked him to clean everything in the box. Slime began to climb into the drawer, and when he was completely in it, Daryl closed the drawer door with his foot. Slime immediately began banging on the door and saying that he could not get out while Daryl held the door with her foot. The girl then apologized and said that the slime could not get out simply because the door was jammed. After these words, Daryl removed her foot and the door opened. A slime fell out of the box with tears in its eyes. Daryl, however, was happy because she had a reason to touch the slime again. This is what the girl did. She began to encourage her partner and asked him not to cry. By evening, the slime had finished its work and Daryl praised it. The girl then suggested that the slime have dinner together and also wondered where he would sleep. Daryl claimed that the area was dangerous at night and the only bed was only in her room, hinting for the slime to sleep with her. But the slime stated that it was fine. He pulled out his slime pot that he had brought with him to sleep in. Daryl was dumbfounded and asked if it would be okay to sleep in such a pot, to which the slime replied that this pot would not break even if a dragon stepped on it. In that case, Daryl was even a little upset. After a while, Daryl had already prepared herself for sleep and was sitting on her bed waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Daryl allowed entry. It was Slime, who was obviously upset about something. He explained that he could not find his slime pot, so he asked Daryl if she had seen it, to which Daryl replied that she did not remember seeing the slime pot. But the girl also added that it was a problem because the neighborhood gets noisy at night with zombies and the like. These words terrified the slime. Daryl, on the other hand, to finish off the slime altogether, added that ghosts with spirits also come out at this time of the day. Slime was already trembling with fear at such stories. Daryl, however, patted her bed and said that Slime could sleep here. These words pleased the boy. Slime thanked Daryl and crawled under the bed. Daryl was puzzled and asked the slime if the place under the bed was good, to which the slime replied that it was indeed a good place. The girl, on the other hand, argued that it was cramped under the bed and the slime did not need to force itself. But the slime explained that he liked cramped places. Daryl was disappointed, for once again she did not get to touch the slime. The next day, Daryl sat down at her desk again and began to ponder. She thought about the fact that slime tended to like tight places, so the girl had miscalculated. She realized that she should have thought thanks to that slime pot. In that case, Daryl decided to push the slime pot against the harshness of society today. After that thought, the girl snapped her fingers again, and the slime slapped again. But when Daryl looked at the place where the slime should have been lying, all she saw was a wet spot. The girl was horrified and only hoped that it was some kind of joke. Daryl didn't understand if there was such a spell, even if it was real, and could this happen because he was a slime. The girl ran up to the wet spot that was left after the slime and only hoped that it was a joke. Suddenly, the girl saw the slime in the reflection, but didn't realize anything at first. At that moment, her partner fell from the ceiling right on top of her. When the slime realized where it had landed, it immediately started to get off Daryl. He apologized and explained that he was suddenly stuck on the ceiling. Daryl, on the other hand, looked at the slime with tears in her eyes and a kind of anger, which greatly intimidated him. Then the girl rushed to hug the slime as hard as she could. The girl also asked the slime not to worry about it as he continued to apologize. They spent some more time in an embrace, and then the slime called out to the girl. Daryl, on the other hand, was just glad that her slime was okay. So Daryl is a black mage who has set up her shop on top of a cliff. She likes nice things, but she can't be honest with herself because of her pride as a black mage. Favorite food and slime. Another night, Daryl thought about the fact that lately, when the slime was doing its job, she had less chance to touch it. She had already used magic, so she didn't know what to do at all. Suddenly, there was another knock on the door. It was again a slime who had read a scary book and now couldn't sleep. So he asked his mistress to let him sleep with her. Daryl's joy was unbounded. She only made a condition that the slime should not sleep under the bed. The slime himself said that he would prefer to sleep with the girl. In the end, nothing could be done, so Daryl told the slime to go to her. Then the slime threw himself into the girl's arms, and the girl could not be pleased. But it wasn't that simple. The slime was sleeping under the bed, and everything that had happened before was just Daryl's dream. In the morning, the slime and Daryl sat down to breakfast. The girl served the food on the table, and the slime thanked her for it, and then started shoveling it all into himself. Daryl noticed this and asked the slime not to cram everything in at once. After that, the girl said that she was going to go shopping later, so she asked the slime what he wanted to eat. To which the slime replied that he wanted to eat marmalade. Such an order surprised Daryl a little. She realized that she would not have to make marmalade. Suddenly, Daryl had a brilliant idea. She asked the slime to come over to her for a second and said that she had actually received something from a guest yesterday. The girl then held out a certain pouch to the slime and asked him to take it. Looking into the baggie, the slime saw a mountain of marmalade. Daryl, however, added that now the slime had marmalade, for he loved it very much. Looking at how happy the slime was, Daryl was also happy and told him that now she would be out for a while. As she left, the girl asked the slime to stay in the shop for a while. The slime obeyed and waved to Daryl in her wake. When the girl left, the slime looked into the pouch again and, dancing, took out a marmalade. Then, without a moment's hesitation, the slime put the marmalade in his mouth. But something seemed to have gone wrong. Slime cringed violently as he ate the one piece of marmalade that Daryl had given him. Daryl was actually peeking at the slime at this time. Just what was the slime thinking about while eating while working? That was the question Daryl wondered. At that moment, the slime called out to its mistress. On seeing the girl, he rushed into her arms. The slime argued that Daryl should wait till the work was over and then leave. So, everything worked out just as Daryl had planned. Slime and the rat thief. The next day, Daryl noticed that the numbers were not correct for the last 3 days. And this is strange and means that there is a thief in the shop. Daryl didn't even doubt it, and the slime at this time also sneezed. In that case, the girl wondered when the theft occurs, while the shop is open, or after closing. Suddenly, Daryl noticed a rat with a pouch behind its back. As it turned out, the theft was happening right now. The girl was horrified to see the rat stealing. It was too blatant. Daryl only mentally asked the slime, who was humming a song carelessly and sweeping the shop, to notice the rat that was right behind his back. The girl realized it was a problem, but she didn't want to touch the rat or use magic on it. In that case, Daryl decided to leave the rat to the slime. Without thinking long, Daryl told the listen that there was a rat thief behind him. The slime turned around and really saw the rat, and Daryl at that time ordered him to catch the rat thief. But the slime froze in place. Daryl at this time, looking at the assistant, even wondered if he was alright. But suddenly, the slime pounced on the rat and felled it. Then he stood up and with the rat in his hands joyfully announced that he had caught the thief. But the rat had no plans to give up, it had already opened its mouth to bite the slime. When the thief bit the slime was frightened and fell to the floor, and the rat began to run away. Daryl at this point rushed to the slime to ask if he was alright. The slime said he was fine, but Daryl saw him crying. In the end, Daryl only concluded how fragile this slime was. Slime and a special welcome. The next morning, Daryl woke up to a noise outside. She didn't yet know what was going on out there. Stepping out onto the balcony, the girl observed a strange scene. The slime was diligently doing squats. Daryl, on the other hand, was surprised that the slime was busy doing such. At this time, the slime started doing push-ups. Here Daryl surmised that this losing to the rat was such a shock to the slime that he began to practice. Slime was not very good at push-ups, so he moved on to the press. The press was also not easy for slime, but he tried. Daryl looked at it, and only thought that the most important thing in such a situation was the slime's feelings. At that moment, the slime proceeded to the next exercise. Daryl looked at it with interest and did not realize what the slime was going to do. In just a moment the slime became huge, and the girl looking at this picture was delighted. She didn't realize what the oizen had just done that it had become so huge. Then the girl decided that she should jump up and hold on to the slime. Without thinking long, she jumped over the support, falling right on top of the slime. All Daryl could think about now was that she would just have to think of an excuse for this. But the girl's plan didn't work very well. She fell on the slime, but immediately bounced off of it and crashed into the bench. So, Daryl was defeated while the slime stood there looking bewildered at the whole thing. Daryl and Nemesis. The next day, the slime went looking for the cockroach in the shop, but eventually lost it. The cockroach, however, did not escape outside. When the slime told Daryl about it, he was very worried. Daryl, on the other hand, reminded the slime how she said it was important, but the slime still missed that cockroach. The slime remained silent. In that case, the girl decided to call it a day. She declared that if the slime did not catch this cockroach, there would be no dinner. These words caused the slime to be horrified. Daryl, on the other hand, thought that the search would be difficult, but the girl was also confident that the slime could handle it. Daryl herself decided to head upstairs. When she entered her room, she went to her bed and suddenly, she heard rustling. This startled the girl. But as she looked at the curtain, she realized that the rustling was coming from her. That the slime had indeed lost the cockroach, suddenly, made Daryl very angry. The girl realized that now she just wouldn't be able to sleep. Daryl started angrily stomping her foot on the floor and getting angry at the slime for not catching the cockroach. At that moment, a joyful slime ran into the room saying that he had caught the cockroach. A smile immediately appeared on Earl's face at this news. The slime, on the other hand, showed the cockroach to Daryl and added that he had captured the insect. Seeing the cockroach, Daryl was horrified. Immediately afterwards, a loud female scream was heard in the shop. Slime and Daryl then went to have dinner. Slime ate but Daryl did not. The girl just sat at the table. This confused the slime, so he asked his hostess why she was not eating, to which Daryl replied that she was just not hungry. Marmalade and Daryl. The next day, Daryl decided to try making soda marmalade this time. The girl was already in full swing. She even had special molds for marmalade. All she needed was lemon juice and gelatin. After that she poured what she had obtained into the mold and cooled it down. Finally, the marmalade was ready. The girl made this marmalade with the thought of what kind of face the slime would make after tasting her marmalade. Daryl didn't think that the slime knew anything about soda. The girl was too embarrassed to say that she had made the marmalade, but she was looking forward to giving the marmalade to the slime. After a while, Daryl found the slime and wished him good morning. The girl said she had received some marmalade again from another customer and handed the pouch to the slime. The slime thanked Daryl and took the pouch. He looked at it, and then at Daryl, who was standing across the room waiting incomprehensibly. Then the girl asked the slime to eat one candy. The slime thanked Daryl and eagerly put a piece of marmalade in his mouth. But after tasting it, the slime felt a strange feeling. He still said that he liked the marmalade very much. Daryl was very happy that the slime really liked her marmalade, and she said that she would tell that customer that the marmalade was delicious. The girl said that she was sure that the customer would bring more marmalade. The slime, on hearing these words, did not even know whether to be happy or not. Marmalade, Daryl, and the slime. At night, when the slime was sleeping under Daryl's bed as usual, the girl woke up. Her foot slid to the floor and the slime noticed this and started rubbing against the girl's leg. Daryl left the room. The slime heard some rattling outside the door, but did not leave the room. The next morning, Daryl asked the slime to come to her for a second. The girl, standing with a pouch in her hand, said that the customer had given her marmalades again, and this time with a fruit flavor. The slime, on the other hand, guessed that it was his mistress who had made this marmalade last night and asked about it. After this question, there was silence in the shop. Daryl was in a panic, for Liaison appeared to have seen everything. The girl had indeed stayed late for the slime. The slime, as it turned out, had simply recognized the scent from the night before when Daryl was cooking. Daryl was confused. She realized that a black mage cooking marmalade to please the slime was out of the question. Then Daryl realized that she was obliged to find a way to change the slime's mind. The slime at this time thanked Daryl for the marmalade and Daryl decided to act. She said that she did not make this marmalade for him because otherwise it would be a waste. Daryl claimed that she was now simply developing advanced black magic that transforms mana into a semi-solid state. And this process creates a jelly-like substance containing sugar. Also, the girl added that some magical power may remain after consuming these jelly beans as it is a byproduct of magic. The slime didn't mind this and still started eating Daryl's marmalade. Daryl, on the other hand, was just happy that she still got out of this situation. So, the marmalade slimes made by Daryl are not a special approach to friendship. Eating them won't make anything happen, but it will fill your heart with warmth. Sick Daryl and a slime. And the shop would not be open for the day. In the morning, Daryl got out of bed and realized that she felt ill. The slime at this time entered the room and asked his mistress if she was all right. Daryl, on the other hand, replied that she was fine but the shop would be closed today. The slime understood everything and decided to leave the girl's room. Lastly, he added that he and the girl would see each other later. Daryl, after the slime left, decided to look up in her book how to make a cure for her illness. After a while, the girl got even worse. She could not move at all and just lay on the bed. Daryl was only trying to find the reason why she was sick. The girl suggested that it might be because she kept going to bed so late. In that case, Daryl decided that she just needed to eat something nutritious. But the thing was, she didn't have the energy to cook anything. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Then the door to the room opened and a slime hand appeared. He entered the room with a cap on his head and a plate in his hands, and declared that he had prepared rice porridge for the girl. Seeing what the slime had made for her, Daryl was pleasantly surprised. The slime, on the other hand, added that this porridge was very tasty. Daryl looked at the plate and saw not only porridge, but also marmalade and candy in it. The girl then stroked the slime and thanked for the food. She also added that she felt a little better already. Clearly unwilling to try the not-so-effective cold remedy, as well as a dish filled with the slime's favorite food, the girl convinced the slime that she was indeed feeling better already. Practicing hospitality and slime. The next day, Daryl gave Slime a survey. She asked him different questions and he answered. The girl asked Slime to show which of these plants is of high quality, to which Slime replied that on the left is the high-quality plant and on the right is the ordinary plant. Daryl praised Slime for his knowledge and asked if he knew the difference between the efficiency of these two types of plants, to which Slime replied that the high-quality one makes it better. The girl, on the other hand, said that this was more or less the right answer. In that case, Daryl suggested that Slime practice hospitality. Daryl would be the customer, and Slime would be the salesman. Thus, the girl stood at the entrance to the shop and called out to Slime. Slime cheerfully ran up and asked his customer how he could help him. Then he also added that one plant cost 30 gold coins. Daryl slowed down Slime, for she hadn't decided to buy plants yet. The girl then asked him to show her ordinary plants and high-quality plants alternately. Slime understood everything and started running after the plants. In no time, he brought the girl the plants she asked for. The girl was surprised at how quickly Slime had brought her the plants and asked him what the price was. To which Slime replied that the price would be 65 gold coins for 2 bouquets. Looking at Slime, Daryl noticed that he looked very jubilant. In that case, she asked Slime to bring her 3 mandrake leaves, 3 high-quality plants and 2 ordinary ones. The girl also added that if Slime couldn't bring them in 20 seconds, she would earn a fine. Slime understood everything and began to quickly search for Daryl's order on all the shelves. After a while, he presented everything to the girl and met the time. Daryl praised Slime for such a job. Then the girl asked how much would it cost? This question stumped Slime. Daryl realized that Slime had messed up and started to titillate him for it again. In fact, the girl was actually very happy that Slime had messed up. She realized that she could now use it further. Magic and Slime. The next day, Slime did magic. He put on a cap, picked up a stick, and started muttering something. Then, uttering a big bang, Slime pointed his stick at Daryl's bench, but nothing happened. At this time, Daryl appeared and asked Slime if he wanted to blow up their shop. Slime, on seeing his mistress, ran up to her and explained that he had started studying magic. Daryl was stunned to hear such a statement, since Slime has no mana at all. But Slime claimed that he got some mana by eating jelly beans. This statement put Daryl in an even bigger stupor. The girl explained that jelly beans were just food and theoretically mana couldn't increase. But Daryl realized before she finished her words. She remembered telling Slime that some mana might remain in her body after eating the marmalade when she had prepared them for him. That's when the girl realized that it was her fault. Slime meanwhile said that after he studied the big fireball, the next one would be the tornado, and then he was going to study the meteor. Daryl listened to Slime's plans and realized that it was bad, because he wouldn't be able to do anything without mana. Then the girl decided to get out of it somehow and asked Slime if he knew that magic depends not only on mana. That is, it also requires a certain aptitude for magic. Slime was upset by these words. The girl herself could see that Slime was upset, but she didn't want to upset him. In that case, she said that Slime had a very slight aptitude for magic. These words pleased Slime. Daryl at this time realized that nothing could be done about it, and now she would have to take responsibility. Therefore, the girl told Slime that she would teach him a little. These words made Slime very happy and he thanked his mistress for this. Without thinking long, Daryl began to teach Slime magic. To begin with, she gave him a book with magic in it, but suddenly, Slime said he couldn't read. Scary story and Slime. One night Daryl decided to tell Slime a scary story. It said that there was once a ghost under the bed and Slime subsequently became a ghost too. This story scared Slime to no end. He was already trembling with fear when the girl finished the story. Daryl at that moment declared that it was bedtime. She quickly said goodnight to Slime and turned away from him and pretended to sleep. Lastly, the girl only asked Slime to beware of ghosts, especially the ones under the bed. Daryl just wanted Slime to go to bed with her, and not under the bed as usual. The girl thought that she would definitely get to sleep with Slime tonight. She was already mentally asking Slime to come into her arms right now, but Slime was cowering in the room. Suddenly, the girl heard Slime pull out a drawer and said that ghosts also appear in drawers. After which, Daryl added that Slime could sleep with her if he wanted. Slime was so excited that he even had a tear coming out. At this point, Daryl was already thinking about Slime being her Dakimakura. She was still mentally asking Slime to go to her, but, all of a sudden, something big plumped on the bed. The girl got up to look and saw a box at the other end of the bed. And in the box was a satisfied Slime. Rascal. That's what Daryl thought for the last time. Threat. Arrival of Pocona 1. The next day, Daryl found that Slime had done everything before she even asked him to. For this, the girl called Slime a great worker, which made him very embarrassed. In that case, Daryl decided to ask Slime for a favor. Slime was happy that his mistress wanted to ask him for something and said that he would do anything. Daryl, on the other hand, said that she had hired a temporary worker as she needed to go out for a while today. Therefore, the girl asked Slime to teach this temporary worker everything as her senpai. Slime, on the other hand, hesitated that he would be able to do it. At that moment, someone entered the shop. It was a girl of small stature. She said from the doorstep that she came from the monster delivery company, and her name was Pocona. Pocona is a fairy and will be in charge of the shop even though it is only for one day. Slime wanted to introduce himself to Pocona and also added that he was happy to meet her. Pocona glanced at Slime and then turned her head away from him importantly. The girl then turned to Daryl and said that there was rubbish in front of the shop, so she cleared it away. Daryl thanked Pocona for this, which greatly angered Slime. Pocona, however, stated that after all, cleaning was her specialty. Slime was clearly not thrilled with Pocona. So he turned to Daryl and said that he would take care of the rest himself as Pocona's senpai. The words about senpai clearly did not please Pocona. At this time Daryl was about to leave. She asked her helpers to take care of themselves and make friends. Pocona and Slime saw Daryl off with a smile and a promise to get along. But when Daryl left, Pocona declared that she was not here today to make friends. With a fearful expression on her face, the girl claimed that on this day she would show Daryl that she was superior to Slime and held a staff position in this shop. Pocona also added that this day would be Slime's last day. These words made Slime cringe. Threat. The arrival of Pocona too. To begin, Slime asked to take Pocona's broom. Before he could finish, Pocona interrupted him and asked him not to finish. The girl claimed that she knew what he would tell her next. She was sure that Slime would ask her to take a broom and sweep the floor. Slime was surprised and didn't understand how Pocona guessed what he was going to say. He asked the girl, how did she know that? Pocona, however, claimed that she was just an excellent fairy and could also predict Slime's next words. The girl added that after these words, Slime would ask her to pick up the rubbish and throw it away. Slime was dumbfounded, for that was exactly what he wanted to say. And Pocona also said that now Slime was thinking about how she knew about all this. The girl claimed that she already understood exactly what this shop needed. Slime only remained silent. Pocona then asked the Slime if he realized how brilliant she was. Slime, on the other hand, only asked the girl to tell him what goes after scavenging. This question stumped the girl. She ran to the table, asking Slime to wait a little while. Examining the random papers, Pocona was in a panic. She hadn't made a note of what to do after cleaning up. Pocona realized that asking Slime would be embarrassing and too cruel. The girl felt that she had to say something plausible, but if she was wrong she would waste 3 days of research. Suddenly, a brilliant idea popped into Pocona's head. The girl looked out from behind the table and claimed that the slime itself had forgotten what goes after scavenging. Pocona claimed that the slime was just pretending to test her, and it was pathetic. Slime realized that Pocona did not know what comes after scavenging, and in that case decided to say the answer. He stated that after that comes the sorting of the inventory. Pocona then stated that this is exactly what she was going to say. After this strain, Pocona exhaled. She had barely gotten out of it, because otherwise Slime would have put her in such an awkward position. In that case, the girl decided that all that was left to show was the difference in skill. Pocona declared that they should stop playing these childish games. The girl then suggested that Slime compete for a full-time position in cleaning the shop. Threat. The arrival of Pocona 3. In that case, Slime began to diligently sweep the bench with his broom. Pocona, looking at this, laughed. The girl argued that sweeping with a broom was not efficient at all. And being a fairy, sweeping is much easier. Pocona argued that her wings were not for decoration and the wind from beneath the flapping wings was not useless. Then the girl gave a mighty flap of her wings, causing Slime to spit on the floor. The girl claimed that in this way she was blowing away all the dust. And cleaning up such a large bench happens in a flash. When Slime was blown to the other end of the bench, however, Pocona claimed that the dust was completely blown away. The girl then asked Slime how he could do such a thing. Pocona claimed that someone as weak as Slime could never match her. The girl called Slime, who had already risen to his feet, a weakling, and asked him to give up his place as promised. But Slime did not plan to give up so easily. He wanted to demonstrate to the girl just what kind of places he could clean. When he squeezed through the small gap, Pocona was dumbfounded. She did not believe that this was Slime's special skill. The girl realized that there was no way she could clear such a tiny space. In the end, Pocona thought that this act of Slime's was just mean. She was sure that Slime had made the gap there deliberately. Suddenly, Slime took a strange shape, therefore Pocona wondered what kind of shape it was. The girl was beginning to think that Slime was just messing with her. But the girl was not going to give up. She said that she had more special skills anyway, so Slime and Pocona began to compete further. After a while, Daryl returned to the shop. She was dumbfounded by what she had seen, but was in no hurry to shout. Looking at her ruined shop, Daryl asked Pocona and Slime to begin explaining what had happened here in her absence. Pocona and Slime, on the other hand, just stood with their heads down and stared guiltily at the floor. But the girl thought she had a draw with Slime. Jealousy and Daryl. One day Daryl suggested to Slime that he should serve a client alone. Slime, however, confidently agreed. At that moment, a customer entered the shop. Daryl decided to follow Slime from hiding and simply wished him good luck while Slime was already rushing to the customer. The customer turned out to be a girl. When Slime ran up to her, he immediately asked how he could help her. When the customer saw Slime, she was very embarrassed. Slime seemed very nice to her. The first thing she asked him was where was the landlady, to which Slime replied that the landlady was not here right now. The customer realized that Slime was now in charge and, after stroking the boy's head, thought it was just a surprise. The girl began stretching Slime and testing his elasticity. Daryl, on the other hand, looked at this with a kind of displeasure. She didn't like how easily the girl was touching her Slime. At this point, the customer asked Slime what he usually does, to which Slime replied that he usually carries things. The girl then asked Slime if he was strong enough to carry her, to which Slime replied that he could do it. In that case, the girl decided to give it a try. These words completely annihilated Daryl. She was just furious. The customer at this time had already jumped on Slime to carry her. After that, the girl and Slime spent some more time together, and then they said goodbye. An overjoyed Slime returned to Daryl and asked her if he had done well, to which Daryl replied that she wasn't sure. Making a displeased face, Daryl still told Slime that he had managed. And Slime was just very happy. Unloved food and liquor. In the evening of the same day, Daryl and the liquor sat down to dinner. But things were not so simple. The lizard sat all tense over a plate of mushrooms. Daryl didn't know what that meant, for the lizard had thanked her for the meal, even though the 2 mushrooms were still in his plate. The girl didn't know what to think, for the slime said that he likes to eat everything. Lizard mumbled after saying that and didn't answer anything thickly. Here Daryl herself realized that the lizard didn't like mushrooms. The girl felt that this was her chance. She wanted to go up to the lizard and touch it as punishment for not wanting to eat mushrooms. Then the lizard firmly declared that he would definitely eat those mushrooms. Daryl clearly wanted to squeeze the lizard again, so she asked him not to overdo it. The lizard, on the other hand, declared that he would eat all the mushrooms because he was brave. Daryl was puzzled. She did not know that it takes bravery to eat mushrooms. Lizuan at this time had already chopped 1 mushroom on his fork, and after looking at it a little more apprehensively, he put it in his mouth and made a face. The expression on the lizard's face changed in an instant. He was clearly pleased, although a tear protruded from his eye. Daryl, on the other hand, was only upset that the lizard had overcome his fears. The girl was simply attacked by a sense of inferiority, so she decided to go to extreme measures. At this point, the lizard asked Daryl joyfully if she had seen him eat the mushrooms, to which Daryl replied that she had seen everything. The girl then grabbed the lizard and hugged it. She started praising the slime as much as she could and squeezing it in her arms. After that, Daryl noticed that there was 1 more mushroom left in the slime's plate and told the slime about it. The slime ate this piece of mushroom too, for which Daryl praised and hugged him again. The trap and the lizard. The next day, Daryl asked the lizard to throw away the rubbish. Also, when leaving, the girl said that it was not safe outside and the lizard would need to let her know if anything happened. When the slime understood everything, Daryl decided to keep it. When the girl left, the lizard started sweeping the shop. Suddenly, he came across a plate that was on the floor. On the plate was marmalade in the shape of a lizard. Seeing the marmalade, the lizard, without thinking long, pounced on it and ate it. Suddenly, he saw another plate of marmalade ahead. And looking further ahead, the lizard found many plates laid out as if in a path. Lizard went to collect all the marmalade from the plates, forgetting the words that Daryl had said to him. At some point, Lizard came across an unusual marmalade. It was lying under a whole structure. But on seeing it, the slime glistened. He decided to get this marmalade immediately. Lizard realized that such constructions were usually made to trap someone. So he decided to get the marmalade with his broom and not get trapped. So he took the broom and ran straight to the trap without looking at his feet. Almost reaching the marmalade, the lizard fell into a hole which was covered with leaves. At that moment, from the bushes appeared joyful Daryl with a shovel in her hands. And the lizard at that time was already calling Daryl for help. The girl reached the lizard and, hugging him, reminded him that she had said it was not safe outside. In fact, Daryl had calculated the way the lizard would act. The lizard, on the other hand, after the incident, didn't realize for a long time who had put the leaves covering the hole. And Daryl, who had done it, stood by and claimed that she did not know who had done it. Yubita and Slime. The next day Slime was doing business in the shop, and it happened that he dropped a box of seeds on the floor. At that moment Pocona appeared from nowhere. She thought she had witnessed a serious accident. So the girl decided to report it to Daryl, and then the slime would definitely end. Looking around the shop, Pocona realized that Daryl was not here. In that case, the girl decided to just wait. And when Daryl returned, Pocona planned to get a staff position in this shop. In that case, all Pocona had to do was wait. She just mentally asked Daryl to return to the shop as soon as possible. Some time passed, and Pocona was still waiting for Daryl, dancing on the spot to amuse herself in some way. After a while, the girl squatted down and began to draw something on the ground with a stick out of boredom. After some more time, Pocona wanted to sleep and lay down right next to the bench. Suddenly, Daryl's voice was heard. She said that you can catch cold if you sleep on the ground. At that moment, Pocona woke up and was even frightened by the sudden appearance of Daryl. Then, realizing that the girl had returned, Pocona jumped up joyfully and decided to tell what she had seen in the morning. She stated that Slime had made a serious mistake and now valuable goods were lying on the floor. But when Daryl looked into the shop, all she found was a box of seeds and a clean floor. This is when Pocona realized that while she had been asleep, the slime had simply destroyed the evidence. Daryl, on the other hand, thought that Pocona had dreamed the whole thing. Pocona herself decided to admit it and simply apologized to Daryl. But the girl was furious. She decided to remember this day. The basement and Slime. One day Slime found something in the shop that was strange to him. He turned to Daryl and asked what it was. Daryl explained that it was just a basement, and she stored valuable urns and statistics there. Whereupon the girl stated that she needed to take something there. So she asked Slime to take the lamp and go to the basement together. Slime obeyed and, taking the lamp, began to go down first, though he was afraid. When they came down, Daryl asked Slime to behave carefully, for there were a lot of expensive things. So Slime began to look around the basement, and was horrified by everything he saw. At that moment, Daryl found what she needed. It was a statuette of a golden magical beast. Looking at this statuette, Slime trembled with fear. The statuette was so terrifying that Slime was not let go by a feeling of unease. Suddenly, Slime tripped and dropped the lamp from his hands. The lamp fell to the floor and shattered. The basement became completely dark, which frightened Slime even more, so he screamed loudly. He screamed and told Daryl how dark it was in here. Daryl, however, asked Slime to just hang on, and in a moment she used magic to light up the basement. Slime, on the other hand, at this time climbed on top of Daryl and squeezed his eyes shut. He was only asking the girl to hurry up and turn on the light, and didn't know yet that Daryl had already done so. Then the girl decided to take a good opportunity to cuddle with Slime, so the girl put out her light and told Slime that the light didn't want to come on at all. After a while, when Daryl rubbed the frightened Slime's face, she decided to turn on the light after all. The girl pretended to be very happy that the light was on. Slime had already calmed down by this time, so the girl suggested that he take the statue and go back to the shop. But looking at the broken figurine lying on the floor, Daryl was desperate. It was most likely the work of Slime, who had carelessly knocked down the statue when there was no light. Training in Slime. After a while, Daryl decided to start training Slime in magic. She immediately explained to Slime that he wouldn't be able to make a big bang or something like that right from the start. The girl argued that Slime needed to learn the basics first. Daryl then handed Slime the first part of the basics. When Slime studied it, however, he claimed that he could now only read the first part. In that case, Daryl decided to talk to Slime about mana today. The girl claimed that understanding the entire universe is the basis of being a magician. Slime then asked Daryl what is the whole universe. Daryl explained that mana is the source of energy used to create magic. Thus, there are those who have mana and those who do not have mana. For example, elves and dwarves. Their magic depends on their race. The presence or absence of mana is mostly determined by birth, although there are other ways to not get. Suddenly, Daryl decided to show Slime a product from their shop called Magic Nut. The girl explained that Slime just needed to eat it. Slime then thanked Daryl for her generosity. Daryl, however, added that this magic nut was not for him, as it was too expensive. Then Slime wondered how much this magic nut cost. Daryl wouldn't tell him the amount, but the girl said that Slime could buy a whole mountain of marmalade with it. Slime pictured this picture and was very surprised. Daryl, however, added that it was just an example and decided to return to the topic of mana. After some time of study, Daryl summarized with words about the power with which slime borrows energy from nature. Looking at slime, the girl saw a strange face. Daryl realized that slime had just yawned, and she had seen it. The girl realized that learning was proving to be difficult for slime. But there was also no denying Daryl that she had overstayed her class. In that case, Daryl decided to finally wear slime out so that he would get as much as he could. Then the girl declared that she would now tell slime a story about magic. The story would be long, but slime would have to listen to the end of it. Not thinking long, Daryl started reading the story. She began by saying that magic came about because of one great magician. After a while, slime was already blowing bubbles from a sound sleep at the table. Suddenly, he woke up and saw a joyful Daryl in front of him. The girl, seeing that slime was awake, rushed to squeeze him again as punishment for falling asleep when she told him to listen to the story. Slime magic. After a while, the slime wanted to practice. Not much was working, but slime asked himself to concentrate, to visualize and give out, and to create an image of fire. That's what the book said. At that moment, Daryl came out onto the balcony and saw the whole thing. Slime was diligently trying to conjure something. Eventually, when Slime's training was over and he returned to the shop, Daryl asked him why he wanted to learn to do magic so badly. To which Slime replied that it was just really cool. Slime claimed that he really wanted to be useful to Daryl. These words even embarrassed the girl a little. Then Slime asked Daryl if he could still go practice. Daryl was surprised that Slime wanted to go practice again, but the girl didn't want to forbid Slime anything, so she just asked him to be careful. When the girl was alone, she sank into her thoughts. Daryl thought about the fact that Slime had been training every day lately. The girl felt sorry for Slime. She wished he had mana and everything worked out. Daryl realized that with such persistence, Slime would have been able to handle the fire long ago if he had mana. At that moment, Daryl's gaze fell on a vessel that contained a rare forest tree fruit that would grant mana to whoever ate it. The girl also remembered Slime's words about wanting to be useful to her. At this time, Slime continued to practice, but he also failed. The boy was already desperate, and tears appeared in his eyes. At that moment, Daryl's voice was heard. She turned to Slime and asked him if he wanted to take a break. Slime, seeing Daryl, became very happy. Daryl, however, leaned over to Slime and said that she had a marmalade for him. The girl asked Slime to have a little snack, for he must work harder. Slime took the marmalade from the girl and thanked her. Daryl then asked Slime to eat the marmalade, which Slime did. After that he waved his wand again to make the fire appear. And the fire did appear. Slime didn't even realize at first that he had succeeded. He just stood there in a stupor while Daryl started clapping her hands. When Slime realized that he had succeeded, he was very happy. Daryl was also very happy to help Slime, because he really tried hard. A restaurant and a slime. So, today Slime set up to make lunch for Daryl. Daryl was a little surprised and asked Slime what got into him. Slime explained that he just wanted to give Daryl some rest, since she always does that. Daryl, on the other hand, said that she was a bit cranky about it, so she wasn't sure if Slime could be trusted with such a thing. At that moment, Slime took Daryl's hand and asked her to look at the courtyard. Looking into the yard, Daryl was shocked. And Slime announced that he had built a restaurant. That's when the girl realized that there was no getting away from him now. Then Daryl looked at the determined Slime and asked what he was going to feed her. Slime, however, handed Daryl a menu. Daryl, taking the menu from Slime, realized that he had indeed prepared very seriously. Looking at the picture on the menu, Daryl wondered what kind of black slurry was on it. Then the girl asked Slime if he would use only quality food items and no marmalade and other sweets. To which Slime replied that he would do as Daryl wanted. In that case, Daryl decided to leave everything to Slime and only asked him to be careful with the fire. A couple of minutes later, Slime was already cooking food in a frying pan. Daryl sat at the table next to him and watched the cooking. She thought about how the picture on the menu did not inspire confidence. However, it seemed to Daryl that the rest of Slime was doing properly. Then the girl assumed that Slime's sense of flavor had changed for the better. At that moment, Slime finished preparing the food and thanked Daryl for waiting. He ended up serving Daryl a vegetable stew on the table. Daryl looked at the dish and said that it looked just like the picture. Slime was pleased by these words and asked Daryl not to embarrass him. Slime then called out to Daryl again and thanked her for feeding him every day. Slime hoped that someday he would be able to cook as well as his mistress, so he planned to try very hard. These words confused Daryl. In the meantime, Slime stated that the girl's bill was 300 coins. White Magician Shiroro. One day, the customer that used to come to the shop when Slime was in charge came back again. From the threshold of the shop, she declared that she had come to see Slime. Daryl, who was behind the cash register at the time, began by saying hello to the girl. Daryl then apologized and explained that Slime was on break at the moment. Daryl realized that she too wanted to touch Slime carefree. The girl knew that it was dangerous when you don't know when that intrusive customer would show up. At this point, the customer asked Daryl if she was a black mage. To which Daryl replied that she was indeed a black magician. The client at this time stated that she knew she was. And she realized it when she saw Daryl's tattoos under her eyes, for all black magicians have them. After which the girl declared that she too was a mage. A white mage named Shiroro. At this point, Daryl was in a panic. She realized that if Shiroro found out that a black mage was being served by Slime, then Daryl would look foolish. Shiroro, meanwhile, said that she was rather surprised to see Slime in the service of a black magician, given Daryl's creepy reputation. Also, Shiroro added that she liked cute things too, so the girl reckoned that she and Daryl would get along. At this moment, Daryl realized that she had to avoid this whole unpleasant situation, because her image as a black magician might be threatened. Then Daryl said that Shiroro was wrong and she had only started working today. The girl claimed that she had no idea why the shopkeeper hired Slime. Daryl tried to salvage the situation and said that the same lizards were much better than slimes, and if she was the owner, she would have been better off hiring golems. Already unable to stand the whole situation, Daryl yelled at Shiroro and asked her to buy something and then get lost. At that moment, Slime appeared and, calling Daryl mistress, declared that he had won. Daryl was dumbfounded. Slime then called Daryl hostess again and said it was delicious. At this point, Daryl was already beginning to burn with shame and anger. Shiroro, on the other hand, saw Slime and said hello to Slime. The girl, of course, understood everything and looked at Daryl with silly eyes. Shiroro then laughed and said that she couldn't believe that Daryl had lied to her. The girl thought the whole situation was even cute. At this point, Daryl finally exploded. Melting Slime. The next day, when it was time for lunch, Daryl apologized to Slime and asked him to play in the yard while she made lunch. This is what Slime did. He went into the yard, holding his wand in his hand. Suddenly, he saw some kind of plant behind the bench. Immediately, Slime started calling loudly for Daryl. Daryl ran outside with a cooker and asked Slime what was wrong. Seeing Slime, the girl was dumbfounded. Slime, on the other hand, stated that he had melted. He was indeed in a semi-liquid state. Daryl realized that Slime had eaten one of those berries that grew behind the bench. Slime, on the other hand, acknowledged this and even added that these berries were very tasty. Whereupon Slime asked if this meant that he had evolved? To which Daryl replied that it didn't mean anything. The girl was more curious about how Slime was going to work in such a state. In that case, Daryl decided to carry Slime back to the shop. Taking Slime in her arms, the girl realized how hard it was to hold him. Back at the shop, Daryl began to think about how she could get Slime back to her former state. But no ideas came into her head at all. The girl realized that it would be a great pity if she didn't find the right way. She looked at the melted slime trying to work and realized that she must reject it somehow. Suddenly, Daryl realized that she could use a hardener on the slime. Then, without thinking long, Daryl put Slime on the table and asked him to wait a while. She poured gelatin dissolved in hot water over Slime and then added some starch, which made Slime cough. Now all that was left was to wait a little while for Slime to solidify. After a while, the slime was ready, but it was in the shape of a ball. Daryl realized that the slime had solidified but not in the right shape. Slime, meanwhile, was just amused by the fact that it was bouncing in place. In that case, Daryl decided to deal with it later. But a little later, Slime himself returned to his usual form. Vlad Alkard. The next day, Daryl needed to rest in her room again. She asked Slime to keep an eye on the shop and catch the thief if he saw him. Slime understood and started to diligently clean the shop. At that moment, a dark silhouette appeared at the entrance of the shop. Slime at first thought it was just a thief and declared that the stranger was no match for him. But as it turned out, it was just a kid. Upon seeing him, Slime was shocked. When the kid saw Slime, the first thing he asked was if he was a helper and if he was alone. To which Slime replied that his mistress had stepped away. From this the stranger called Daryl careless and asked Slime what he would do if a thief came. Slime then stated that it was fine and he would take care of everything. In that case, the kid decided to tell Slime something interesting. Whereupon the kid stated that he was the thief. This statement dumbfounded Slime. The stranger, meanwhile, reached for a vial on the shelf. He claimed that he was going to steal this vial. Slime ran after the thief and began to ask him to stop. The stranger, on the other hand, claimed that he was not going to stop. Slime, however, continued to shout loudly at the stranger to stop. But the stranger had no intention of stopping. He was already starting to think about where he would sell the vial to. At that moment Daryl, who was upstairs, came out onto the balcony over the loud noise. Seeing the girl, the stranger was dumbfounded. He turned to Daryl and said that her assistant was pinching. Daryl recognized this stranger. It turned out to be her elder brother, Vlad Alkard. Slime immediately started crying and convincing Daryl that her brother was bad, because he stole their jar. Daryl was annoyed that her brother was hurting her Slime. Then the girl asked Slime to wait not upstairs. The girl herself planned to deal with her brother. The first thing the guy did was to start ridiculing Daryl for hiring Slime. He didn't realize, did his sister really like this Slime so much? Daryl, on the other hand, asked her brother to shut up. The girl claimed that the monster control room just got it wrong, and she herself was too busy, so she didn't change it. The guy claimed that he understood the girl if she was so loaded, but he was also wondering where all the customers were. Daryl, on the other hand, was only curious about why her brother Vlad had come. Vlad claimed that he had come just to see how his little sister was doing. Vlad assured her that he was very worried because his cute little sister had suddenly left home. After which Vlad asked the girl if she was going to return home, to which Daryl firmly replied no. The girl also wondered how Vlad had found her, to which Vlad replied that love brought him here. When the guy saw Daryl's judgmental look, he realized everything and decided not to tell his sister anything. He didn't want Daryl to hate him. After that, Vlad asked if he could visit his little sister from time to time, to which Daryl replied with a displeased face that Vlad was allowed to visit her. Vlad, however, suddenly added that he would only come to see Slime. The boy began to ridicule Daryl for thinking he would come to see her. In that case, Daryl decided to remind her brother that he had stolen the jar from her and therefore had to pay money for it. Specifically 50,000. That's when Vlad didn't laugh at all. Brochure making in Slime. One day Daryl was faced with a problem that Slime had told her about. The girl realized that it was bad and asked Slime if he knew how to solve it. As it turned out, the issue was that Daryl's shop had just opened and they didn't have many customers. And it couldn't go on like this. So Slime wanted to do everything he could to attract customers. Daryl herself realized that she had just run away from home, and at the rate the shop was developing, she would most likely be dragged back. Because it's hard to get to the top of the cliff. Daryl realized that she needed more publicity. In that case, the girl suggested that Slime make a brochure. The words about the brochure even dumbfounded Slime at first. He didn't seem to know what a brochure was. Without thinking long, Daryl sat down to prepare the brochure. First, she had to give the location of the shop. At that moment, the girl was called out by Slime. He stated that he had finished making the brochure while standing with the drawing in his hands. Looking at Slime's drawing, Daryl was puzzled as to what was depicted on the left. Slime, however, explained that he had depicted a dragon protecting the shop on the left. Daryl, on the other hand, decided to explain to Slime that he didn't have to make anything up. The girl argued that Slime should write down where the shop was and what they sold there. And if he added a dragon, it would scare away customers. While explaining everything to Slime, Daryl Yuhi and herself drew the brochure they roughly needed with paints. The girl was pleased with what she got and decided to copy this brochure using magic. This is when Slime announced that he wanted to help too. Daryl didn't like this very much. She asked Slime to draw a picture for the cover and make it cute. Slime understood and started drawing the cover. After a while, Daryl copied the booklet using magic in several copies. Afterwards, the girl asked Slime if he had finished drawing the cover. To which Slime replied that he was almost finished. Then Daryl walked over to Slime and pulled the sheet out from under him. Slime was even a little upset, for he wasn't finished yet. He apologized to Daryl, but the girl said that what he had drawn was very cute. Slime didn't even believe these words of the girl. Daryl, however, added that this version was a little big for brochures, so the girl asked if she could keep this drawing since Slime had worked so hard on it. Slime only happily agreed. In that case, Daryl hung Slime's drawing on her desk at work and went to get herbs with it. Duel and Slime. One day, Pocona suddenly returned again to take a staff position at Daryl's shop. Slime, upon seeing Pocona, even jumped up in fear. The girl only asked Slime to accept what she was about to give him. Pocona handed him the roll-up in his hands and ran away with the words that she would wait for Slime there. Slime looked at the roll-up but could not read what was written there. After a while, Pocona was already in the Matango forest where she had asked Slime to come in her letter. She thought about the fact that her last battle with Slime had caused problems for Daryl, but there was no problem if the fight was in the open. That was why Pocona was going to spend the whole day in this forest today. After a while, Pocona had already curled up in a lump from waiting. Slime still hadn't come to meet her. Then the girl decided that she had won this fight since Slime just didn't come. In that case, Pocona decided to go home. Mentally, the girl swore to Slime that she would show him again, for he had ruined the plans she had for today. But when the girl tried to find her way home from the forest, she had no luck. Pocona thought this was very strange and did not understand where the way back was. At that moment, the girl had a lamp in her hand. Suddenly, it went out and the girl was left standing alone in the woods in pitch darkness. Pocona was hysterical that the snowman had run out of fuel, and in such a place. Then the girl had already started thinking about the scary monsters from the book that appear at night in the woods. At that moment, a silhouette appeared from the bushes. Pocona was so frightened that she fell off her feet and screamed loudly when she saw the scary silhouette. But it turned out to be the harmless Daryl, who first of all, seeing Pocona, asked if she was all right. Upon seeing Daryl, Pocona just cried. She was very happy that Daryl had found her, for the girl was very frightened. Daryl apologized to Pocona and explained that Slime had not been able to read the letter she had given her. At that moment, Slime appeared behind Daryl's back and personally apologized to the girl. Pocona saw Slime and began to wipe away her tears, claiming that she was not crying at all. The girl also added, through her tears, that she was not frightened at all, but had simply eaten a poisonous mushroom. Pocona claimed that she couldn't stop crying even though she was fine, and it was all because of the mushrooms. At this point, Slime started rubbing his eyes and sobbing. He was just very happy that Pocona was fine and she was fine. In that case, Daryl decided to go back to the shop. Lunch and Slime. One day, Shiroro came back to Daryl's shop with a gift. From the doorstep, the girl asked the boys if they had lunch. Shiroro just wanted to have lunch with the boys. Daryl apologized and explained that she had just eaten. But at that moment, Slime stated that he hadn't eaten yet. So the guys spread the blanket in the bench and sat down to eat. Shiroro told them that she got up early this morning and cooked something. There were sandwiches in the shape of slime. Slime was very delighted to see such sandwiches. At that moment, Daryl, who didn't want to seem inferior to Shiroro, announced that she had made something too. It was a certain dish that Slime first just looked at and then thanked Daryl. Daryl was horrified to see such a reaction from Slime. She clearly wanted more. At this time, Shiroro had already started feeding Slime her sandwiches. All Daryl had to do was watch and burn with anger. She decided to try to feed Slime too and held out a marmalade to him. Slime was very embarrassed and Daryl had already asked him to open his mouth wide. Seeing the look on Daryl's face, Slime pulled away. Daryl, on the other hand, tried to convince him that what he saw was not like that at all. Shiroro laughed at this time and said that she saw the expression on Daryl's face when she asked Slime to open his mouth. The girl thought it was very cute. Daryl, on the other hand, shouted at the top of her voice that it wasn't. Metal Slime. After a while, Daryl started working. Slime saw something strange standing on the table and asked Daryl what it was. Daryl explained that it was a metal element. It is used to make weapons. Daryl also added that recently evil goblins came out of the forest, so the demand for weapons has increased. The girl then asked Slime not to touch this metal element because it was very dangerous. Slime promised the girl not to touch the element, but it was beckoning him. At that moment, Daryl heard strange sounds. When the girl turned around, there was a whole explosion in the shop. Daryl quickly ran up to Slime, who was out of sight, and asked if he was alright. To which Slime replied that he was fine. But when Slime showed himself, he didn't look like himself. He was now metallic, and that was not good at all. Then Daryl asked Slime to stand for 1 second and touched him. From the realization that Slime was not soft now, Daryl covered her face with her hands. Slime, on the other hand, looked at his hands and thought that he had simply evolved. Out of joy, he started jumping on the spot, but Daryl asked him not to. The girl looked at Slime and didn't understand what she should do now. At that moment, Slime called out to her. He stood in front of the stone, and when Daryl looked at him, Slime chopped the stone with his hand. Daryl was horrified. She just wanted Slime to be soft and didn't realize what she had to do that now. Daryl didn't expect the fact that Slime could break the stone with one hand. Metal Slime. After digging into her books for a while, Daryl's head snapped up again, for she couldn't find a way to return Slime to his former state. The girl was in a stupor and didn't understand what she should do. The girl realized that Slime looked happy now, although he was more comfortable being so strong. Still, Daryl decided that something might happen to Slime if she didn't do anything, so something had to be done. At that moment, the girl was once again called out by the metallic Slime. Holding a stick and a shield made of wood, Slime firmly declared that he would go to the forest. But Daryl couldn't understand what Slime even meant. Slime, on the other hand, said that he was going to fight the evil goblins. Daryl was desperate. The situation was dire, because Slime is too excited about becoming metal. Now he thinks he is invulnerable. Even now, he fights with air. Then Daryl tried to explain to Slime that wandering around was a dangerous occupation, for in the forest, besides goblins, there were bears. Then Slime declared that he would do something when the bear came. With these words, Slime smashed his wand over his head. Daryl, on the other hand, mentally asked him not to wave his stick. The girl realized that this was bad, and if she took her eyes off Slime, he would immediately dash off into the forest. In that case, Daryl wanted to make Slime soft again as soon as possible. Suddenly, she had a brilliant idea. She made a smoothie for Slime and asked him to refresh himself with it before he went to the forest. Slime only agreed. He thanked the girl and proceeded to drink Daryl's drink. Daryl, however, thought that perhaps the slime would become the same if he ate the fruit that had melted him, so she made a cocktail of it. The moment Slime drank the cocktail, he shook all over and cried out questioningly. In just a moment, Slime was soft again, and Daryl was the happiest girl in the world. At first, Slime didn't realize what had happened to him. But after a while, he sat down behind the bench and began to stare into nothing alone with his thoughts. Daryl was peeking at him at this time and only mentally apologized. Preparation in Slime. So, it's been a while since Daryl hired Slime, and the forest is pretty safe. So the girl decided to give Slime some other job. Without thinking long, Daryl turned to Slime and asked if he had a spare moment. Slime turned around and the girl asked him if he could go to the forest nearby and gather some herbs himself, on his own. Slime lit up at such an errand and confidently stated that he could do it. In that case, he decided to quickly pack up and ask Daryl to wait for a while. After a while, Slime was ready, but Daryl had some questions. Since Slime had packed a whole arsenal with him, Daryl doubted that he really needed that much, since the forest wasn't far away. Slime, on the other hand, claimed he was doing it for Daryl. Slime takes a lot of food, so Daryl asked if it was traveling. The girl tried to explain to him that he was just going to the forest. At this point, Slime didn't listen to Daryl at all and only asked her to look at his sword. Daryl, on the other hand, asked him if he was listening to her at all. Slime, on the other hand, stated that this sword was called Excalibur, and with this sword he would be fine even if he was attacked. In fact, the sword was made of paper and was very fragile. Slime, meanwhile, continued to talk about what he was taking with him into the forest. Daryl looked at it and was amused. At this time, Slime showed the girl a compass. Daryl approved of the compass, for it was a useful thing. Slime explained that one should follow the red arrow and one could come to where one needed to go. At this point, Daryl took it back. And Slime showed her the next things he was going to take. They were just ordinary irons, but Slime claimed that they were pointing in the right direction. Daryl looked at the enthusiastic Slime and just kept quiet, for she didn't want to disturb him while he talked about his traps and other junk. After a while, Slime announced that he was ready to hit the road. But his rucksack was so heavy and large that Slime could not move with it. Daryl, unlike Slime, realized that he had simply taken too much, collecting grass and slime. Lastly, before Slime went into the forest, Daryl asked him if he would be okay if he was on his own, to which Slime replied that he had Excalibur to protect him. Daryl then explained to him that he should go straight after leaving the shop to reach the forest. The girl also asked Slime to gather some herbs at the edge of the forest, and not to go into the forest, because it was very dangerous there. As Slime was leaving, Daryl was still worried, for it was very close. In the end, the boys said goodbye, waving to each other. At the beginning of his journey, Slime was walking along very cheerfully, and with a song. Suddenly, a dragonfly flew by, which caught his attention. Slime took out his paper sword and tried to land the dragonfly on it. Slime eventually succeeded, so he began to admire the insect. After some more time, Slime stopped to take a rest. He ate, drank, and rested so that he could go on with renewed vigor. Jumping up after a rest and picking up his rucksack, Slime went on his way, humming a little song to himself. After a while he reached the forest. Entering the forest, Slime finally saw the right herbs, so he was very happy. As he approached the herbs to cut them, he heard strange sounds nearby. Slime raised his head and saw a big horned beetle in front of him. After a while, Slime returned to the shop with joyful shouts. Daryl greeted him and asked him first of all if everything was alright, after which the girl offered to show Slime what he had found. Then Slime started unpacking his rucksack. From it he took out the very same Hercules beetle he had found in the woods. Daryl was obviously not thrilled to see a huge horned beetle. A moment later, a loud female scream was heard in the shop. Vlad and Slime. The next day, Daryl left the shop again and gave Slime all her duties. The same began to watch over the shop diligently. At that moment Vlad came again and, seeing Slime, asked him if he was alone. Slime was frightened when he heard Vlad's voice. He recognized Daryl's brother and started shouting that Vlad was bad. Then Vlad asked Slime where is Daryl, to which Slime replied that he was not going to say anything to the one. In that case Vlad decided to wait for Daryl to come. He decided to have a little fun with Slime, so he said aloud that he was going to steal something, calling himself a bad guy. Slime, upon hearing these words, declared that he would strike Vlad down with his magic if he would only try to steal something. Vlad was, of course, surprised to hear the words about magic. He decided to ask if Slime could actually use magic, since it was very difficult to use. But Slime claimed that he could do it. Vlad, on the other hand, didn't think he could believe it until he saw it for himself. In that case, Slime decided to pull himself together and show Vlad what he could do. But at that point, the guy poked him in the forehead with his finger and called him petty. Furious Slime, on the other hand, asked Vlad to stay out of his way. Vlad only apologized twice to Slime for this. Then Slime started trying to use magic again. At this moment, Vlad poked him with his finger again, but already in his cheek. Slime did say the right words, ignoring Vlad's interference, but nothing came out. Vlad, on the other hand, laughed at the fact that nothing came out of Slime's mouth. The guy laughing made Slime very upset. Tears appeared in his eyes. He began to tearfully claim that he could really do it. But Vlad claimed otherwise. He was sure that Slime couldn't use magic. At that moment, Daryl returned and, looking at what was happening, immediately asked Vlad what he was doing with her employee. Before Vlad could turn around to Daryl, the girl used magic to kick her brother out of the shop in a flash. Christmas Eve and Slime. On this day, as always, Slime cleaned the shop and cleaned the dishes. Daryl, looking at Slime, noticed that he was more cheerful today than usual. Therefore, the girl wondered what was the reason for Slime's mood. To which Slime cheerfully replied that Santa would come to all the good children today, and will also give them what they want most. Then Daryl realized that the reason why Slime was in such a good mood was because Christmas was coming soon. In that case, the girl decided to give something to her employee, so she asked him what he asked Santa. To which Slime replied that he asked Santa for a dragon friend. Hearing such a statement, Daryl was a little taken aback. The girl then concluded that Slime liked dragons. She then asked if Slime would like something else, like a huge candy bar or a cool sword. The girl argued that friendship cannot be received as a gift from someone. Slime agreed with Daryl, and the girl was already happy that she had managed to change Slime's mind. Then Slime declared that he would do anything he could to become a dragon's friend, Now Daryl realized that she hadn't changed Slime's mind at all. At that time, the girl didn't know what to do at all. Late at night, she still decided to make a dragon toy for Slime, and finish everything when Slime was asleep. Suddenly, a happy Slime came into the room and said that he had finished cleaning the shop. Daryl, sitting with a toy dragon in her hands, was dumbfounded at such a surprise and only praised Slime for a good job. Slime at the same time asked Daryl with burning eyes whether she thought Santa was coming. Daryl at this time turned away to hide the dragon from Slime. The girl said that Santa loves children, so he should definitely come, because he is Santa. Daryl then suggested that Slime go to bed so that Santa would surely come. After a while, Slime and Daryl were already in bed. Slime, on the other hand, clearly did not want to sleep. He asked Daryl if he could be friends with the dragon, to which Daryl replied that she had nothing against it. Slime then asked the girl if dragons liked marmalade. He was so excited that he kept asking Daryl all sorts of questions. Daryl, however, asked Slime to go to bed after all. A present in Slime. In the morning, Slime woke up and immediately thought of Santa. It was already light outside the window, and the dragon that Slime had been waiting for was not around. This made Slime very upset. At that moment, a worried Daryl ran into the room and said that there was trouble in the shop. The girl explained that she had discovered a small dragon outside. Slime was overjoyed at this news and jumped out of bed to get a quick look at the dragon. When he went out to the balcony, Slime saw a small dragon in the meadow, which he liked very much. Daryl at this time, standing next to Slime, asked him to go to the dragon and greet it. So Slime went out into the courtyard and shyly said hello to the dragon. The dragon answered Slime in the same way. Slime thought it was very cool what the dragon was saying, but it was only Daryl who spoke to Slime using magic for the dragon. At this time, Slime asked the dragon if he was real, to which the dragon replied that they are indeed real. He also added that he could prove it with his wings. After these words, the dragon flew up and Slime looked at it and admired it. Slime was just sure that the dragon was indeed real. The dragon at this time landed and said that he would spend time with Slime today because Santa had asked him to. The dragon, that is Daryl, said that this was Slime's Christmas present for being a good child. Slime was over the moon at such a gift, so he offered the dragon to be his mate, and the dragon only agreed. After that, Slime started hugging his new friend. Gift and Slime. That same day, Slime started playing with his new friend. The boys even played thief and good guy. Dragon was in thief and planned to steal all the treasures in the shop while no one was there. But then brave Slime appeared and ordered the dragon to stand his ground. The protector of the shop has returned, said Slime confidently. The dragon, on the other hand, laughed. He doubted that anyone could stop him. Slime argued that the dragon was unlucky, for he had a trump card up his sleeve. And that was a slime ray that would slay the dragon. But that was just Slime's imagination. After this game, Slime asked his friend what would they do now. The dragon, being Daryl, however, suggested that Slime take a break, for the girl was already tired of playing with Slime. Then Slime began to eat, while the dragon sat by his side. Then Slime decided to draw while the dragon sat next to him. After that, Daryl rode Slime on the dragon using magic. One time they climbed so high that Slime's eyes glistened. After that, the boys were sitting near a cliff on a hill. Slime suddenly asked the dragon if he could become a strong dragon if he tried hard. The dragon replied that Slime would definitely not become a dragon. These words horrified Slime. But the dragon added that it was within his power to become a strong dragon. He was waiting for that moment and couldn't wait to see with his own eyes when Slime would become very strong. In that case, Slime promised the dragon that he would do his best. Strong Slime. After Christmas, Slime continued to do his work in Daryl's shop. Daryl looked at Slime and was surprised that Slime was fine. The girl thought that he would be sad after the dragon flew away. In that case, Daryl decided to ask it directly. She asked Slime if he was lonely after his mate left. To which Slime replied that he had promised the dragon that he would become a strong slime. This is when the girl realized what was the matter. By nightfall, the boys got ready for bed as usual. Suddenly, Daryl noticed that Slime hadn't taken his box and asked him about it. Slime, however, explained that he would no longer use his box. Slime claimed that he had become strong. Hearing those words, Daryl was over the moon. The girl just wanted to squeal. She realized that she could now sleep with him as a dakimakura since his box was gone. Therefore, the girl supported this idea of Slime and, spreading her arms, invited him to sleep. Slime, on the other hand, declared that starting today, he would sleep under the bed. Daryl was confused. She tried to change Slime's mind by saying that there would be a ghost under the bed. Slime, on the other hand, claimed that he would defeat that ghost. And when Slime got under the bed, of course, he found no ghost and thought he had slew it. Then a pleased Slime looked out from under the bed and told Daryl that the ghost had escaped and it was now safe under the bed. A hurt and upset Daryl, on the other hand, just turned away from Slime and went to bed. Though Slime called out to her, the girl only snorted. New Year and Slime. The next day, Pocona came to the shop again and wished the boys a happy new year. She was greeted by Slime and reciprocated. Thereafter, the girl claimed that it was time for a game of badminton and offered Slime to play. Pocona argued that it was necessary to play badminton in the new year. After that, the girl went on to the rules. They are simple. You have to hit the shuttlecock with your racket. The first one who misses loses. The boys didn't take long and started playing right in the shop. Pocona also added that if the shuttlecock fell on this side, Slime would get a point. Slime understood everything and the girl in the meantime started the game. When Pocona tossed the shuttlecock and hit it, it flew so far and high that Slime could only hold his head up and look at it. Eventually the shuttlecock fell behind Slime's back. Pocona, however, at this point joyfully announced that she had received her first point of the year. Looking at a disgruntled Slime, the girl asked why he had that look on his face. She claimed that she was just playing by the rules. Whereupon Pocona declared that from now on she would stop holding back and everything would be for real. With these words, the girl launched another shuttlecock and asked Slime to hit it back if she had the strength. Slime quickly realized that the shuttlecock would fly over his head again and decided to increase its size. Seeing this, Pocona was dumbfounded. Slime at this time batted the shuttlecock away with his forehead. The shuttlecock flew back to Pocona. It flew high and the girl realized that she could not reach it. At that moment, Daryl appeared behind Pocona's back and asked the boys if they were ready for Zoni. Pocona turned her attention to Daryl and the shuttlecock fell beside her. Pocona, on the other hand, at this point declared that the tie was won. This decision did not please Slime very much. Pocona, on the other hand, claimed that their battle with Slime was over and it was time for the Zoni. Daryl at this time asked the boys if they wanted Modi, to which Slime replied that he wanted 2 Modi. Pocona in that case stated that she wanted 3 Modi. Their battle didn't end there. Fortune-telling and Slime. The next day, Shiraro came to the shop and offered the boys a magic ball fortune-telling. In the end, it turned out that Slime and Shiraro were close friends, which Slime was very happy about. Daryl, on the other hand, said that divination from a white magician looked a little suspicious. Shiraro, on the other hand, argued that Daryl was wrong and her predictions were very accurate. The girl also added that her affinity with Daryl was perfect. Daryl, on the other hand, only disliked the fact that Shiraro did not ask her anything before she started fortune-telling on her. At that moment, the Slime asked Shiraro to see the affinity between him and Daryl. The embarrassed Daryl, however, reluctantly supported the Slime's suggestion. In fact, she was too curious to look at the result. Shiraro in the meantime decided to start divination. After which the girl stated that the affinity between the Slime and Daryl was SOSO. Daryl didn't like this. As she left, she stated that after all, fortune-telling was just a joke and that was why black magicians didn't believe in it. In fact, she was really hurt by the fact that it wasn't a Slime affinity, so she sat on the edge of the cliff and worried. At that moment, Shiraro ran out of the shop and called out to Daryl. The girl apologized to Daryl and admitted that she had lied. Shiraro claimed that Daryl and Slime's affinity was higher than hers. The girl confessed that she was just jealous of Daryl, and those words so were lies. Most of this, Shiraro added that she was very sorry. A satisfied Daryl, on the other hand, stood up and said that she was not angry at all, for it was just a fortune-telling. Then the girl went back to the shop, and when she was sure that Shiraro did not see her, she jumped with happiness. Revenge and the Slime. One day Slime drew himself and Vlad and played that way. He imagined Vlad coming to steal everything and the Slime would not let him do it. Vlad would be determined to steal everything anyway, and the Slime would use his special skill on the bad guy called Small Fire. This way the bad guy will just start burning and screaming in pain and eventually give up. That's when Vlad showed up and asked the Slime to stop drawing such a thing. Slime looked up and recognized the bad guy and the bad guy said hello. The guy explained that he had something to give to Daryl and asked if she was upstairs. Slime, on the other hand, stated that he would not say that. Then Vlad tried to explain to the slime that Daryl herself had asked him to do so, but the slime didn't even listen to the guy and loudly asked him to leave. Slime stated that he would have to attack Vlad if he did not leave. Vlad doubted this very much, because last time the slime had failed to create magic. Now the slime was claiming that he would be able to do it. Vlad continued to doubt it. He had never seen a slime that could do magic before. But the slime claimed that he was the slime that could. In that case, Vlad asked the slime to show him any magic, and if he couldn't, he would have to call Daryl. At this point, the slime remembered Daryl's words when she left the bench for him. Those words motivated him to fight. Shouting the word "small fire," the slime pointed his staff at Vlad. It succeeded, and the dazed Vlad barely had time to dodge the slime's attack. The guy was shocked to realize that the slime could actually attack. Slime at this point declared that he was going to defend the shop. At this point, Vlad realized that this was not going to continue. He explained that Slime's attacks were cool, but if he was careless, something could catch fire. At this point, both turned their heads and saw the counter going up in flames. Both of them had to save themselves. By evening, the shop was extinguished. A disgruntled Daryl, holding a slime in her hands, asked Vlad, kneeling in front of her, what he would do with the goods. Vlad only mumbled, and Daryl said that her brother would have to buy all the burnt goods. Check in slime. At some point, Daryl noticed that it was getting colder lately. Because of that, the girl was slightly worried about her health. In that case, she decided to ask the slime if he was feeling okay. To which the slime replied that he was fine. Daryl then wondered if slimes get sick at all. To which the slime replied that he had no idea at all. Then Daryl suggested a winter check just in case. She grabbed the slime by the cheeks and started checking the elasticity again. After a while, Daryl stopped touching the slime, for it already looked suspicious. The slime, on the other hand, asked if he was alright. Daryl realized that if she answered now, the check would have to end, but the girl didn't want that at all. She also realized too that just repeating the same test would look suspicious, but Daryl didn't want to finish touching the slime. Then the girl wondered aloud about why the slime was so soft. Daryl started to pretend that the slime had revealed something serious. By doing so, she frightened the slime. So he quickly asked her to check him again. In that case, Daryl happily rushed to hug the slime again. Eventually, the slime asked Daryl what was wrong. Daryl thought for a moment, and then joyfully declared that the slime was healthy. These words pleased the slime even though the girl had patted him down 100 times and had not found anything. Cold and slime. After some more time, it started to get colder outside. In the shop, of course, it was also very cold. So much so that Daryl even sat wrapped up in her blanket. At that moment, a slime entered the room and wished the girl a good morning. Daryl, on the other hand, didn't think it was a good morning at all. On the contrary, she was surprised that the slime was not cold at all. At this time, the slime announced that he was going to go for his morning cleaning. Daryl, on the other hand, slowed him down. She asked if the slime was going to go dressed like that. The girl thought that it might be okay for the room, but it was very cold outside and the slime should wear winter clothes. These words puzzled the slime. It was clear from his face that he didn't have any winter things. Daryl realized this and decided to see if she had anything that the slime could wear. Digging through her things, the girl reckoned that the slime could use a Christmas stocking. So the slime put the stocking on his head. Now he was warm. Daryl at this moment looked at the cute slime and was embarrassed, and the slime didn't understand why the girl was looking at him like that. At this point, the slime decided to go to work. Daryl, on the other hand, was in no hurry to let the slime go. She asked him to stop and stated that his neck might freeze. After a couple of minutes, Daryl was confused by the sight of the slime even more. The slime was very cute and already quite warmly dressed. In that case, he tried to go to work again and Daryl again asked the slime to stop. The girl stated that she needed to check how warm the slime was, so she hugged him tightly. They hugged each other for a long time, although the slime was not very happy about it. A sandwich and a slime. One day Daryl was once again sitting at her desk working. When Slime approached her, the girl apologized and explained that she would soon finish and cook something, so Slime would need to hold on for a while. Slime agreed and began to watch Daryl working. Suddenly, a brilliant idea popped into his head. He went to the room on the first floor to prepare something. Slime remembered the way Daryl thanked him for making her food. He also remembered what Shiroro had said about sandwiches being very easy to make. In that case, the slime decided to make sandwiches for himself and Daryl. Shiroro also told the slime that he just needed to put some food between 2 slices of bread and the sandwich would be ready. In that case, the slime decided to make a marmalade sandwich. But unfortunately, the marmalade ran out, which made the slime very sad. In that case, he looked at the pieces of bread and did not understand what to do. Suddenly, an idea popped into the slime's head. After a while, he went to Daryl again with a plate in his hands. He stated that he had made the sandwiches for her, as she was busy. On seeing the sandwich, Daryl was pleasantly surprised. Slime, on the other hand, at this time stated that he had made a super bread sandwich. He put the bread between 2 pieces of bread. Daryl was in a stupor. She didn't even know how to react to this. She thanked the slime though and decided to try his sandwich. When the girl took a bite of the slime sandwich, the slime immediately asked if it was good for her. To which the girl replied that the bread had a good flavor but still needed a glass of milk. Salary and slime. One day Daryl decided to pay the slime salary already. Slime was very happy to see Daryl handing him some sack and thanked the girl for it. But Slime opened the pouch thinking that it would contain jelly beans but not coins at all. And when, instead of marmalade, the slime saw coins, he was not happy. Daryl noticed this and asked him what was wrong with his face. The girl thought that the slime should be more cheerful since it was his first salary. But it seems that the slime just didn't know what a salary was. Then Daryl explained that the slime had done a good job, for he had swept the floor, arranged the goods, and kept watch over the shop, therefore he was entitled to a wage. The girl argued that money becomes special if you get it for your hard work. Therefore, Daryl asked the slime to use these coins wisely. Also the girl added that she would continue to look after the slime as it was working well. Then the joyful slime stated that he would keep trying. In that case, Daryl wondered what the slime wanted to spend his first salary on. To which the slime replied that he was going to spend his entire salary on jelly beans. This is when the girl realized that the slime was not listening to her at all. In that case, the slime stated that he would buy a legendary sword with that salary. Daryl slowed down the slime. She realized that he knew nothing at all about money, for the legendary sword was too expensive. In that case, the girl suggested that the slime go shopping in the city. Upon hearing the words about the city, the slime hovered. As it turned out, he just hadn't been there yet. Daryl explained to the slime that there were many things in the city that he had never seen before. For example, a huge market with forges and mystical antique shops. Slime, on the other hand, stated that he would like to go to the marmalade shop. Here Daryl realized that Slime just wasn't interested in anything but jelly beans. Disguise and Slime. It was only after Daryl promised the slime to go to town that she thought about the consequences. The girl, suddenly, realized that she might be seen with the slime by other mages. At this time, the slime was already diligently, and with a song going to town. Daryl on the other hand was now puzzled. After all, there would still be someone not far from them in the city. Suddenly, the girl realized that there was a way out after all. So she approached the slime and asked him if he was okay. Then the girl suggested that the slime dress up coolly, since he wasn't in town that often. Slime liked this idea very much. He really wanted to be cool. But the problem was that he was a slime, and in that case he needed a costume. So Daryl asked Slime to wait a little while, and she herself rushed upstairs. The girl wanted to use the costume she had made. Put on the claws. Insert monstrous fangs. And in the blink of an eye, the slime became the terror of the forest. Grizzly. Eventually, looking at the still cute slime, Daryl realized that all her efforts were useless, and she couldn't hide the fact that he was a slime. The girl just felt that being seen with this fake grizzly would be better. Slime, on the other hand, at this time asked Daryl if he looked cool, to which Daryl replied that Slime does look strong with those claws. In that case, the girl decided that now she needed a disguise too. After a while, she returned to the waiting slime and apologized for the delay. Seeing the new Daryl, the slime was in a stupor. Daryl was now a monster tamer. Slime asked the girl why she changed her clothes, to which Daryl replied that this style was in fashion now. After which the girl asked the slime if she looked good, to which the slime replied that he didn't know that. The walk and the slime. When everything was ready to be sent off, Daryl told the slime that he could go to town on the road, but not now. The girl stated that they would fly on a broomstick now. Slime, on the other hand, was burning with curiosity. He asked Daryl if she could fly, to which Daryl replied that of course she could, for she was a magician. After that, the girl asked Slime to put some of her things out of her backpack, because otherwise they would just fall and break. These words frightened Slime, who had a backpack twice his size behind him. After a while, the boys were ready to take off. Finally, they took off. Daryl was sitting on the broom and Slime was in a bucket attached to the broom. In just a moment they were high above the clouds. Slime was very delighted. He liked the fact that he was now watching the view from a dragon's flight. Daryl, on the other hand, only asked Slime to hold on tight, for she was going to speed up. This pleased the slime even more. He opened his mouth wide and started screaming at the top of his voice. The boys flew in the clouds and above the clouds. The whole flight was to Slime's liking. After a while they approached the mountains, behind which was the city. Suddenly, Daryl announced that she had run out of magic. Hearing these words, the slime was dumbfounded. At that moment, the boys began to fall down. But suddenly, Daryl took off again and said that she was just joking. But no sooner had the slime rejoiced than an obstacle appeared in the way again. It was a mountain to which the boys were quite close. Slime panicked and asked Daryl to fly higher. They rapidly continued to approach the mountain, and Slime was already sure that they were about to crash. But suddenly, Daryl abruptly changed direction and flew upwards. A couple of seconds later, the boys were flying over the city. Slime looked at the beautiful buildings and admired them. Halloween extra. Before Halloween, Pocona came into the shop in a witch's hat and asked if it was sweet or nasty. Slime the girl was not on a joke frightened, so he hid behind his broom. Then the girl ran up to him and began to stretch his cheeks. Whereupon Pocona declared that she would make jokes on Slime in return unless he gave her candy. Slime, on the other hand, was not at all aware of what Pocona wanted from him. Pocona noticed this and asked the slime what was wrong with his face. The girl explained that it was Halloween, and if someone said sweet or nasty, they had to choose between a joke or a candy treat. The girl claimed that with her spell she had already received a great deal of candy. In that case, the slime decided to ask Pocona too, sweet or nasty. But Pocona laughed and said that in the kind of costume the slime was wearing now, it didn't count. The girl argued that the spell wouldn't work if the slime wasn't wearing the costume. Then the slime began to walk away. Here Pocona thought she had already defeated the slime. The girl was sure that she had shown the slime how strong the fairies were, and this was his total defeat. In that case, Pocona was about to go home to eat candy. But suddenly, she was called out by the slime and told to stop. Turning around, the fairy couldn't believe her eyes. But the slime, wearing a cap and carrying his staff, asked Pocona again, sweet or nasty? Pocona was dumbfounded and did not understand where the slime got the costume. Pocona's surprise even made her candy bag fly out of her hands. She was very ashamed, because she was beaten by the slime, but she still did not want to give him the candy. Out of desperation, the girl just cried. In the end, she still decided to give the slime a candy. Slime took Pocona's candy and thanked her, and the girl mentally promised the slime to remember it to him. After Pocona ran away from the shop, the slime approached Daryl. Daryl immediately asked him why he wore that costume. The girl didn't say it, but she thought the slime was cute in that costume. Slime, on the other hand, explained that today they give him candy when they see him dressed as a sorcerer. That's when Daryl understood. She knew it was Halloween from the north and asked if the slime knew, to which the slime replied that he was just given candy. Daryl thought for a while and remembered that she had some marmalade. She took out the candy and thought about eating it right now. At that moment, the slime's eyes lit up. It seems that Daryl wasn't the only one who wanted to try this marmalade. After which, the girl asked him if he knew the Halloween spell. Slime hesitated at first. Then he remembered and loudly uttered sweetness and prank. In that case, Daryl gave the slime his marmalade, and the slime cheerfully took it and thanked the girl. Daryl in the meantime offered to give the slime a snack, and the slime accepted. Then the slime began to eat his sweets, and Daryl only watched him. When the slime ate the marmalade, Daryl asked if the slime liked it, to which the slime replied that he liked it. Then the girl asked if the slime had candy, to which the slime replied that he had no candy. In that case, Daryl asked the slime whether the slime was sweet or naughty and then asked for candy. This made the slime angry, for he had no candy at all. This is exactly what Daryl was trying to accomplish. Slime then chose the prank, and Daryl jumped on him with a hug. It was only after a while that Slime remembered that Daryl could not ask him for sweetness or naughtiness, for she was out of costume and the spell would not work. The girl, however, only reminded the slime that she was a mage. After a while, the slime went to school. Daryl was a teacher there, and Vlad was his classmate. In one of the lessons, Daryl asked her students, "Who wants to solve an example?" Slime, on hearing this question, immediately wanted to solve the example. Then, fidgeting a little in his book, he cheerfully declared that he did not know the solution. In that case, Daryl wondered why the slime raised his hand. The girl also decided to give the slime a little hint. She said that this task was yesterday's homework. Slime, on the other hand, also cheerfully stated that he had not done that homework. In that case, Daryl asked the slime why he had not done this homework. To which the slime again cheerfully replied that he could not read the letters. After such a statement, Daryl was in a stupor. In the end, she praised the slime for its honest confession. In that case, the girl asked Vlad if he could solve this example. To which Vlad replied that he could do it. He got up from his chair and looked at the textbook. After that, the boy scratched his head and said that he couldn't read those letters. These words made Daryl very angry. Then the girl asked if Vlad had forgotten about yesterday's homework. To which Vlad fearfully replied that he had not done that work. These words made Daryl even more angry. Therefore, in the end, Vlad ended up outside the door for not doing his homework. First time in town. So let's go back to the time when Daryl and Slime first went to the city together. Slime, walking with Daryl through the market town, couldn't stop marveling at how crowded it was. He ran up to every passerby and said hello to everyone. Suddenly, the slime bumped into one pretty girl with ears. Slime was attracted to this girl's claws, so he complimented her on it. The girl thanked the slime for the compliment, and replied the same to his claws. At that moment, the slime who had run away so abruptly was caught up by Daryl. She explained that he was annoying other people with his shouting and should leave the talking to the girl. Slime, on the other hand, only apologized to Daryl. Suddenly, he smelled an odor. Looking around, Slime saw a counter from behind which smelled delicious. Without thinking, the slime ran up to the counter and approached the seller. The salesman asked the slime how he could help him. He then asked if the slime would eat here or take the food with him. This question stumped the slime. He did not answer it but only asked the vendor to give 10 skewers. At this time, Daryl approached the shop and asked the slime, doesn't he know what it means to take with him? The girl also explained that you can't buy 10 at once, because he might just not like them. Here the slime realized that Daryl was absolutely right. Then Daryl asked the salesman to give them 2 skewers to take with them. When the vendor gave the boys the skewers, they went for a further walk around the town. Daryl decided to explain to the slime that if he kept doing this, one day he would not have enough money for what he wanted. Slime understood and promised to be more careful in that case. Looking at the burning meat skewer, Slime had doubts. Then he decided to ask Daryl if he could eat it. But Daryl said that she would be worried if they eat these skewers on the go, so the girl suggested that the slime would rather eat sitting on the bench. So that's what they did. While Daryl ate slowly and stretched the pleasure, the slime ate all the meat in 1 second. He liked this kind of food very much. Because when he realized that there was no more meat, he even became sad. Daryl noticed this and decided to offer her skewer to the slime. Slime hesitated and asked Daryl what she was going to eat, to which the girl replied that she was not hungry. In that case, the joyful slime took the skewer of meat from the girl's hands and thanked her. While the slime was enjoying the meat, Daryl asked him where would they go now, to which the slime replied that they would definitely go to the marmalade shop. Daryl was a little surprised because the slime kept wanting to go to the jelly shop even after eating the 2 skewers of meat. A sweet shop and a slime shop. After some time the boys did reach the sweet shop which had jelly beans in it. On seeing it, the slime was over the moon. He looked at the sweets and couldn't believe that all this was happening to him for real. In that case he took the basket of sweets and declared, "It is decided." Daryl at this time approached the slime and asked what else is it that has been decided? The girl was already starting to guess that the slime wanted to spend all the money again. Slime on the other hand thought that there was nothing wrong with that. He didn't think that these sweets looked like they were about to be sold out at all. Daryl, on the other hand, didn't think so and asked Slime to look in his wallet. Slime did so. He found only 1 coin in his wallet. Daryl, however, explained that Slime could only spend that money here. Slime was horrified, for 1 coin would only be enough for him to buy a large lollipop. Daryl, on the other hand, suggested that Slime buy 3 small refugees, which would cost the same amount. The girl asked the Slime to remember to think before buying, for the Slime had earned this money by hard work. Slime sighed heavily and thought about the choice. Looking at the different lollipops, the sad Slime couldn't decide between the big one and the small one. Time passed, and the Slime was still thinking. He clutched his head with tension. Suddenly, his head went up in smoke. Daryl noticed it and asked the Slime what was wrong, but the Slime only stood like a paralyzed man and remained silent. Then Daryl went up to the Slime and poked her finger at it. At that moment, it was as if the Slime rebooted and woke up. A gun shop and a slime shop. After the sweet shop, the boys went for a further walk around the town. While Daryl was looking at the toy shop that attracted her so much, the Slime discovered the gun shop. Without thinking long, the delighted Slime ran into the gun shop and started looking at everything there. While the Slime was looking at everything and marveling at the volume of goods, the shopkeeper called out to him and asked him to hold his horses. The guy then addressed the Slime, calling him a fake bear and advising him to go home if he had come just to gawk. Slime realized what the salesman was implying and pulled out his money pouch and showed the salesman. The salesman realized he was wrong and apologized to Slime for his rudeness. He then asked the Slime if there was anything he could do to help his customer. Then the Slime approached the salesman and asked if there were any legendary weapons, to which the seller replied that the Slime was very lucky and had a couple of 3 legendary weapons. These words excited the Slime. The vendor at the same time pulled out some stubby sword and claimed that it was a legendary star sword. The vendor claimed that this sword had broken after a star was chopped with it. These words stunned the delighted Slime. He took the sword and began to admire it. At this point, the salesman decided to sell the Slime another piece of bling. He pulled out a certain legendary shield that had saved the city from a falling meteorite. Upon seeing this legendary shield, the Slime was even more amazed. His eyes shone and he realized that he wanted the legendary sword and the legendary shield very badly. The salesman then turned on the acting skills as the Slime picked up the shield as well to discern. He pretended to be surprised that the Slime could hold the legendary sword and the legendary shield at the same time. The salesman then asked the Slime if the Slime was a legendary star warrior by any chance. At these words, the Slime stood in a proud pose. The salesman claimed that his eyes were not mistaken and these items were precious, and he was willing to sell this junk to the Slime at a discount. Then the Slime thanked the salesman and stated that he would take everything. These loud words were heard by Daryl and she rushed into the gun shop. She tried to stop the Slime and remind him not to buy anything alone, but the Slime was already ready. He was all equipped with cheap junk but claimed to be wearing legendary equipment. Toy shop and Slime. Although the Slime tried to explain to Daryl that he had a star sword in his hands and used it to cut the star, but Daryl still thought it was a waste of money. So the girl asked the Slime to return this junk. That's how Daryl got the Slime's equipment back. She suggested him to go and look at other shops and compare the goods next time. That's what the guys did. Daryl walked down the street and wished there was something good here. Suddenly, the girl turned her attention again to the toy counter. She said that this shop looked nice and invited the Slime to come in. When the boys went inside, Daryl's admiration was unbounded. A toy shop was exactly what she needed. Suddenly, the girl looked at one of the toys. It was just a teddy bear. Then Daryl thought that with that look, the toy was just begging her to buy herself. The girl realized that she wanted this toy, but she couldn't buy it while the Slime was around, because it would destroy her image as a dark mage. But Daryl also realized that she would be very upset if someone else bought it. In that case, the girl began to think about what she should do. She went to the very toy, grabbed it, and decided that she should trick the Slime and then buy the toy. At this point, the Slime was standing nearby and looking with a displeased face at Daryl cuddling the toy. Daryl noticed this and asked the Slime what was wrong with his face. The girl claimed that she needed this toy for a ritual. Slime, on the other hand, thought it was a waste of money, and his sword Daryl called it useless altogether. Daryl at this time was shocked at how quickly Slime had figured her out. In that case, she decided to find a different approach. She said that she needed this toy for her magical research and suggested that the slime take the toy instead of the sword. The girl realized that this was a good plan, for in that case she would not have two whole toys. Slime stood his ground and argued that the star sword could not be replaced with anything because it was legendary. In that case, Daryl couldn't stand it any longer and went back to the armory to get this slime star sword. A snack in the city? As Daryl and the slime wandered around the town, it was noon. The girl on the other hand remembered that all they had eaten with the slime was meat on skewers and the lollipop that the slime was now holding. But even so, Daryl wasn't hungry. At this moment, the slime's stomach rumbled loudly. He declared that he was very hungry. In that case, Daryl had no choice but to feed the slime. So the boys went to the Mandragora cafe. When they had already sat down at a table and started looking at the menu, Daryl asked the slime if he had chosen what he was going to eat. To which the slime cheerfully replied, yes. In that case, Daryl decided to order and called the waiter. When the girl came to the table, Daryl ordered a set of the dish of the day and a soup. At this point, the slime asked Daryl what is a set. To which Daryl replied that a set is a special. In that case, the slime decided to order a set of hamburgers and fried shrimp and omelette and rice and steak and also ice cream. Daryl realized that the slime would only go wild and asked him to choose one dish for himself as he would not eat much. These words made the slime angry. He clearly wanted to eat more than one dish. But he did not object to Daryl and looked at the menu again and thought about it. Suddenly, his attention was caught by a neighboring table. There was an uncle sitting at the table. Slime, however, poked his finger at him and said that he was eating something that looked very tasty. Daryl glanced at the food at a neighboring table and saw a sumptuous dish. The girl immediately thought about the fact that this dish must be very expensive. In that case, Daryl decided to advise the slime to choose so as not to overpay. She looked at the menu and poked at one dish. The girl claimed that it included a hamburger, fried shrimp, and an omelette. This dish clearly appealed to the slime. So he still decided to take the dish offered by Daryl. The waiter took the order and went to the kitchen. After a while she returned with the order. Slym was served a kid's lunch of scrambled eggs, shrimp, and hamburger. Slime looked at the food and decided to share his joy with Daryl. He asked the girl to notice that his dish had hamburger and fried shrimp and omelette, even a flag standing. In that case, the slime decided not to delay and get to eating as soon as possible. He was slurping loudly and enjoying his dish, and Daryl only asked him not to choke on it. Dark Mage Daryl. At one point, while the boys were still in town, Daryl remembered that she needed some mandrake seeds. Slime assumed that they had a problem with it in their shop, so he got very scared. But Daryl hurried to reassure him and explained that they were doing just fine with it. After thinking for a bit, Daryl also remembered that the seeds were only sold in a magic shop, which meant that there was a high chance of meeting a magician there. The girl realized that she was really winding herself up, but she couldn't do anything about it. After a while, the slime and Daryl approached the mage's shop. At this moment there was a girl in the shop wishing for an order. She ordered 4 books on magic, a mana stone and 1 shell spider. The man behind the cash register said that they now had a lot of keychains because of a mistake in the order. So he offered the girl to take the keychain if she liked it. The girl asked the man behind the cash register to stop making jokes. She claimed that she was a dark magician and could not desire such bling. In front of the man was indeed a dark mage demon named Daryl. Daryl claimed that dark mages love skulls, mummies, and other creepy things, and the customer that stood before her now needed to know this if he was an employee of a magic shop. Daryl then asked what was it about skulls, to which the man replied that they don't have skulls in their shop. At that moment a joyful and delighted slime ran into the shop and immediately attracted attention. He was surprised from the start at how much bigger this shop was than Daryl's shop. Daryl, however, ran in behind the slime and asked him to stop and not to shout. The girl tried to explain to the slime that she would just buy the seeds and they would move on and the slime would have to wait aside. At that moment Daryl, who was standing at the cash register nearby, seemed to recognize Daryl's voice. Whereupon Daryl ran up to the cash register and asked the salesman to give her some mandrake seeds as soon as possible. The salesman handed the seeds to the girl and also asked her to take a keychain as a gift. Daryl liked this keychain as it was very cute. The girl did not even believe at first that it was really free. The seller, however, assured that Daryl could really take it, for he had received many keychains by mistake. At this point, Daryl, who had originally covered herself with her hat when Daryl approached, spoke up. She said that she recognized the voice of someone. At this point, Daryl turned around and seemed to recognize Yarrow. Yarrow, on the other hand, while propping her cheek with her hand, asked Daryl why she was dressed like that. The two dark magicians clearly knew each other. Dark Mage Yarrow. Yarrow kept talking to Daryl. She couldn't believe that Daryl looked completely different. Therefore, Yarrow asked Daryl how she was doing and if she was still afraid of insects. At that moment, Daryl realized that she had met exactly the person she didn't get along with. In that case, the girl decided to leave the shop as soon as possible. At that moment, a slime approached Daryl and asked who was the girl his mistress was talking to. To which Daryl replied that she had never met Yarrow before, and this girl just started talking to her. Yarrow, on the other hand, was not happy with this answer of Daryl. The girl introduced herself and said that she and Daryl are childhood friends. Yarrow then wondered why the slime called Daryl a mistress and how he knew her. To which the slime replied that he is a slime and works in Daryl's shop. At this point, Daryl tried to stop the slime and silence hung in the shop. When it reached Daryl, she shouted in admiration that it was incredible. She had never heard of a dark mage who hired a slime. Yarrow began to ridicule Daryl for disguising herself to bring a slime into the city. At this point, Daryl began to shake. She was very embarrassed. Daryl tried to fix the whole situation by saying that Yarrow was wrong and she had just hired a slime to keep the shop cool. Yarrow, however, clearly didn't like that excuse. Then Daryl asked her acquaintance if she had improved her magic skills. Yarrow hesitated after this question. She said that she could cast sorcery for the most part, but it was still bad. At that moment, Daryl picked up the magic book that Yarrow had bought and decided to take a look at it. Errol, on the other hand, blinked and tried to stop Daryl, but it was too late. Looking at the cover of the book, Daryl realized that it was a book for beginners, for children. Daryl mysteriously put the book back in the stack and, turning to Yarrow, shouted happily, "This is unbelievable." Whereupon Daryl asked Daryl if it was true that she still needed a book for beginners. Not wanting to answer the question posed, Daryl simply asked Daryl to shut up. The girl claimed that she was very angry and was going to tell the other mages that Daryl had hired a slime. In that case, Daryl said she would tell them that Yared was still learning from the beginner's book and still needed help learning. Daryl, on the other hand, argued that a dark mage who likes cute things would not be able to teach her anything. Daryl, on the other hand, began to deny this and stated that she didn't really like cute things. Errol then reminded Daryl how she almost took that keychain as a gift. To which Daryl replied that it was a rare magical item and only a fool could fail to realize that. While the two girls were arguing, the slime had already started yawning. Dark Mage Daryl. After this incident, the two dark mages and the slime went on wandering around the city. Daryl told how a long time ago a big spider appeared and she, as a dark mage, took it with her hands. Daryl, on the other hand, thought the whole story was nasty. Daryl, on the other hand, did not like these words. She decided to remind Daryl who dealt with insects when they were in magic school. Daryl, on the other hand, claimed that it was for letting Daryl cheat on her homework, so the girls were even. In addition, Daryl claimed that she was no longer afraid of bugs and had overcome this fear. In that case, Daryl decided to check something. She deliberately lagged behind Daryl and the slime to tell Daryl that there was a cockroach on her back. At these words, Daryl trembled and squealed loudly. Then Daryl apologized and said that it was only her imagination. Evil Daryl decided to ask Daryl what was wrong with her and why was she following them. To which Daryl replied that Daryl was paranoid and was just coming home. In that case, Daryl asked Daryl where is her broom. Daryl then pulled out her broom and Daryl realized that her acquaintance had a folding broom. This is when Daryl guessed that Daryl just wanted to tease her and now she was about to leave. At this time, Daryl did indeed announce that she was leaving. As it turned out, Daryl had gone to Gaia Station. The girl could not stop thinking about how good it was that she had left Daryl in this way, for now it seemed as if she had won Daryl. The girl also hoped that next time she would be able to fly on her broom. At that moment, the loudspeaker said that the bus was about to depart. Daryl heard this and was about to enter the bus with the thought of defeating Daryl. At that moment, a surprised Daryl and a slime looked at Daryl from around the corner. As Daryl was about to enter the bus, Daryl shouted and asked her acquaintance to be careful on the bus. Daryl and the slime then said goodbye to Daryl, leaving the girl to burn with shame. The Golem's workshop and the slime. For now, Daryl and the slime were not going to leave the city. Daryl glanced at the town clock after Ariel left and only thought about how much time Ariel had made them waste. Besides, the girl had bought what she needed, so she decided to ask the slime if he had taken what he wanted. To which the slime happily replied that he had taken everything. In the end, what the slime wanted was candy. But he also bought some junk. After all, saving money is more important than anything else. At this point, the boys were passing by a shop that caught the attention of the joyful slime. With joyful cries of robot, the slime ran into the shop, leaving Daryl standing in bewilderment. Once both were in the shop, however, the slime began to look at the contents. The shop was full of different robots. Daryl drew the slime's attention to the small golems, puppets moved by magic. The slime liked these words and asked Daryl if she could move one robot. To which Daryl replied that the slime could do it if the robot was small. Then the girl asked the slime if he wanted to try to do it, and handed him a staff. Daryl then asked the slime to concentrate the same way he did the sorcery. A little fire and swing the staff. Slime understood everything. He took the staff and started trying to concentrate. Then he took a swing of the staff, after which the robot's eye opened. To everyone's surprise, the robot began to move. The surprised and delighted slime told his mistress that the robot was moving. He could not believe that the truth was controlling it. Daryl, on the other hand, asked the slime to make the robot do something. Then the slime politely asked the robot to wave its hand. The robot obediently waved his hand and then extended his hand to the slime. An overjoyed slime shook the robot's hand and then declared, turning to Daryl, that he was going to buy this golem. In that case, Daryl wondered if slime could afford this golem. These words puzzled the slime. He himself realized that he would not be able to buy the robot, and suddenly became sad. Daryl, looking at the sad slime, wanted to take this golem, but the girl realized that even a small golem like this cost a lot. The girl also thought about how nice it would be if she could make one golem herself, but she wasn't an expert at that. At that moment, the door behind the cash register creaked open. The old man who owned this robot shop came out of there. He offered the guys to make a golem and claimed that the robot would be cheap if they used junk. Golem Workshop and Slime. Slime was very excited about this offer from the old man. He was very happy to make a golem from junk. Daryl, on the other hand, asked the slime to slow down a bit. The girl asked the slime if it would be okay. After all, it would cost most of the slime's money. Slime, on the other hand, claimed that it was fine. Daryl, on the other hand, realized that even if the robot was made of junk, Slime's money might not be enough. In addition, the old man who owned the shop seemed suspicious to Daryl. At that moment, the old man said that it would be good for him if the boys bought this robot. But he also added that he couldn't guarantee the performance of the golem. At that moment, Daryl realized that her suspicions were not false. The old man, on the other hand, laughed at this time and said that he was just joking. He explained that the guys could easily make a return if they didn't like the robot. These words puzzled Daryl. The old man, on the other hand, said that he was the master of golems and he had pride. These words made the slime's eyes light up even more. Daryl, looking at the slime, realized that it was impossible to refuse him now, so the girl decided to agree. The old man then invited the slime to his workshop. And when the old man was ready to slam the door behind him, Daryl asked if she could come in too. The girl just wanted to know how to make these golems. The old man, however, said that he just wouldn't have a job if Daryl knew how to make golems. The girl was a little upset, but she realized that such an answer was too obvious. When the old man brought the slime into the workshop, the slime was very surprised and delighted at the same time. He took out his bag of sweets and held it out to the old man as money. The old man laughed at the slime and asked if it was money he had earned, to which the slime replied yes. The old man smiled and decided to still take what the slime held out to him. After all, it was his hard-earned money. After that, the old man decided to get started. He sat the slime at the table and explained that they start by molding magic clay. The old man then asked the slime to imagine the golem he wanted. Slime turned to the old man and asked if the golem could work with him. To which the old man replied that the golem could do anything and just needed to be taught how to do it. Then Slime, after torturing the clay a little, declared that he had done everything. The old man, however, looked at the slime's work and asked to let him help. The slime did not object, and the old man praised him and said that this clay would make a good golem. After a while, Slime went out to the shop where Daryl was waiting for him. Daryl, seeing the slime, immediately began to ask him how it was and if it went well. Slime, instead of saying anything, simply showed Daryl his new golem. Daryl, looking at such a beautiful golem, couldn't believe that it was just junk. After all, the robot looked like it had been created from very good parts. At that moment, the old man himself also returned to the shop. Then Daryl decided to ask the old man what about the money. To which the old man replied that the slime had given him just the perfect amount. In that case, Daryl thanked the old man sincerely and asked the slime to express her gratitude too. The satisfied slime with Golem in hand and a broad smile on his face turned to the old man and thanked him. The old man smiled and also thanked the boys for taking the Golem. The return journey and the slime. Eventually the boys made it back to Guy's station. Daryl explained that she was a little tired, so she was not able to fly on her broom. Sitting already on the bus in front of the slime, Daryl asked him if he enjoyed the shopping trip, to which the slime replied that he enjoyed it very much. He showed the girl his candy to show off. Daryl, on the other hand, asked if he had taken souvenirs, to which the slime replied that he had taken everything. Showing his pouch, the satisfied slime stated that he had taken some souvenirs for Pocona and Shiroro. Then Daryl asked if the slime had taken a souvenir for the bad guy Vlad. At that moment, the slime realized with horror that he had forgotten to take the bad guy souvenir. Sadly lowering his head, the slime admitted that he just hadn't thought of the bad guy. Suddenly, a brilliant idea popped into the slime's head. He pulled out his flag from the kid's lunch and declared that he would give it to the bad guy. Then the slime pulled out his souvenir star sword and declared that he would defend Daryl's shop with it. Daryl, however, warned the slime that it was dangerous to swing the sword around like that, and it should be kept in its sheath. Slime became a little sad, but still put the sword back in its scabbard. Daryl, meanwhile, asked what about the golem? Slime's spirits rose again. He said that the golem was the best part of today. He thought he would be more useful to his mistress with his golem. Daryl didn't even deny it. After all, she was very happy about this trip to the city with her slime.